Good morning! I'm so happy we're going to spend the day together. You see, I stayed up reading about all those common things that you and I never realized actually had purposes. My head's brimming with all this knowledge. I need to unload it on someone, and you're the perfect volunteer. First things first, food. Gotta have a hearty breakfast. I'll make you some eggs, but before I cook them, look at this. See that little white string? There are a few common misconceptions about what it is, but no, it's not part of a baby chick or anything yucky. Even though it looks kinda unnatural. You actually want to see it in your eggs. It's called chalaza. There are 2 of them in each egg, and they're like the ropes that hold up a hammock. And this hammock is an egg yolk. The strings keep it from splatting against the shell. If you still don't like the look of it, don't worry, these strings usually vanish after cooking. Plus, they're a sign of freshness. If you don't see a trusty chalaza, you might have left your eggs sitting in the fridge for a few days too many. So how do you like them? Scrambled or sunny side up? Before you clear your plate, you need to add a piece of fruit to that breakfast. Want an apple? By the way, do you know where apples come from? I mean, all the apples you've ever eaten? Apple trees, right? And what seeds do those apple trees grow from? Apple seeds, right? Nope. Almost all apple trees don't grow from seeds. That's because seedlings turn out genetically different from their parent trees. Seeds from a Golden Delicious don't grow a Golden Delicious tree. All apples you've ever eaten were likely grown on grafted trees. That's when farmers attach apple branches to the cut trunk of another tree. Any other tree. Yeah, a peach tree or even an avocado tree. Frankenstein trees. Before we start our day, let's check the weather. Turn on the TV. Oh, wait, have you ever looked closely at your couch? See those buttons? Once upon a time, furniture was filled with horsehair and straw. Those sorts of filings moved around a lot. Couches could get really lumpy and bumpy, so those deep buttons were used to lock them in place. We use more comfortable fillings than straw now, but we still keep the look for fashion. Okay, go on. You can turn the TV on now. Uh-oh, there's a 60% chance of rain. Looks like we'll need to bring umbrellas. But do you know what this forecast actually means? I've always thought it means that there's, a 60% chance of rain. But this number actually means that 60% of the forecasted area might get rain. How about a quick snack for the road? Oreos, yum! Look at the design on the top of the cookie. In the center, there's a circle topped with a double-armed cross. It's the Nabisco logo, which is a European symbol for quality. Grab a coat too, just in case. Have you ever noticed these letters printed on the zipper of your coat? Or any clothes zippers for that matter? Go on and check right now. I bet I can guess what letters you'll find there. If I'm right, you owe me a soda. Does it say YKK? I had a 50% chance of getting that right, because about half of all zippers in the world are made by one manufacturer called the YKK Group. So do you owe me a soda or what? Let's head out. I have some errands to run. You don't mind tagging along, do you? First stop, I need to pop into the bank to drop off a check. Not all lines printed on checks are as simple as meets the eye. To make them harder to replicate, a lot of them have tiny writing. It's so small, it just looks like regular black lines, showing you where to sign. Usually, the writing is phrases like original document or authorized signature. Only superheroes with microscopic vision would know, though. On some US pennies, and these coins are pretty rare, you can spot several letters under Lincoln's shoulder. VDB. What do they mean? They're the initials of Victor David Brenner. That's the man who designed the very first penny and the exact same portrait of Lincoln that's still in use today. Next, I need a few things from the supermarket. Can you grab a cart? Did you know that these metal loops on the cart actually have a use? They're designed to hold your grocery bags if you have too many to fit inside the cart, or if you need fragile items to stay upright. Do you need anything? Here's my shopping list. 1. Bubble bath. What? It's an essential! I'm not kidding. It actually does have a practical use, and it's not to make a bubble beard when you're bored in the bathtub. Bubble bath was invented so that the foam would sit on the surface of the water and insulate it, keeping the water warmer for longer. I like long baths, so it's very important to me. Next item, A toothbrush. Mine's old and needs replacing. The blue indicator bristles are pretty much gone. Oh, did you not know that's what they're for? Yeah, the row of blue bristles on most toothbrushes acts like a timer. Each time you brush your teeth, they get thinner and thinner. And eventually, the blue color gets all worn away. That's when you know you need a refresher. Just to be safe, I'll get you a new brush too. Alright, I've got everything I need. Let's go home. Uh-oh, it started raining. Good thing we grabbed those umbrellas. It seems like no one really knows what the metal point at the top of an umbrella is for. See, now that we're out of the rain, there are water drops all over the fabric. When we fold our umbrellas up and put them in the car, they'll soak everything they touch. But not if we tap the metal tip on the ground and shake all the water off. Convenient, right? Into the car we get. That line of black dots around the windshield always bugged me, but I finally found out what it's for. It's called a frit. It shields the glue that bonds the windshield to the car from ultraviolet light. The dots, though, they just make it look nice. Let's turn on the radio and listen to some tunes. You probably see that symbol on the radio's power button pretty much every day. It's also on computers, microwaves, game consoles, and so many other things. But I never thought about what it means. It dates way back before most of the technology that uses it. Turns out it's actually binary code that says standby power state. Cool, huh? Well, those errands made me work up an appetite. Here's a deal. I'll do the dishes while you cook some spaghetti for dinner. Everyone always says it's impossible to measure out the right amount of spaghetti. It's so hard to figure out what one portion looks like. But none of us should struggle with it because there's a tool for this exact purpose right under our noses. In the middle of your spaghetti serving ladle, there's a hole perfectly sized to measure out one serving. No more leftovers from now on. Everyone always uses the tops of plates and bowls, but as I'm washing them, it reminds me of all the clever uses for the bottom sides. For example, the rough rim under plates can sharpen knives. Watch this. All of your knives are super dull and can barely cut these tomatoes. Now, if I take them and run them along the bottom of this plate a few times, voila! Fresh as new. They slice the tomatoes like butter. And this groove here in the bottom of your mug, it has a purpose too. One you'll probably be very thankful for even if you don't know about it yet. This groove is specifically designed for mugs you put in the dishwasher upside down. Without it, a puddle of water would pool inside the rim and spill all over your feet when you take the mug out. Trust me, this little gap is your best friend. Oh, before you use that frying pan, have you salted the oil? Yep. You shouldn't only salt your pasta water, but also the frying oil. A pinch of flour will also work. Both absorb the moisture from the food you put in and stop the boiling oil from splattering. But do watch out because salt might lower the temperature at which oil starts to smoke. It probably won't be an issue unless you're boiling big vats of this stuff, though. That's enough new information for one day, right? Let's finish this great day with a big spaghetti dinner.
So, when you're driving, you get a green light everywhere, except Japan. The traffic light is actually blue there. The problem is purely linguistic. Old Japanese had the same word ao for blue and green. Even though modern Japanese has a separate word for green, the linguists objected and the government left the ao color for the traffic light. It's technically green, but it's the bluest shade possible, so we perceive it as blue. If you ever travel across Japan, you'll definitely see norin, fabric hangings that look like curtains before the entrance to restaurants and stores. You can tell if the store is open just looking at the norin. If they're hung at the doors, it means this place is open. If there are no curtains, sorry, the place isn't working, look for another one. The name of the place is usually written across the norin. The dirtier it is, the better. Just kidding. The Japanese say that if this curtain's dirty, it means there are a lot of customers that constantly touch the norin when they enter. Japanese are very punctual, and in this country, everything's on time, no matter if it's people who need to come to a meeting or public transport. The trains are so punctual that if they have a minute's delay, the company will provide you with a special certificate to prove to your boss your lateness wasn't your fault. There are some drawbacks about Japanese trains, though. Some cars in Tokyo Metro are so packed sometimes that Metro staff, aka professional pushers, come to help people squeeze into that train. They literally shove people onto busy trains and help the passengers travel safely. Japanese people seem to be obsessed with glasses. Well, there doesn't seem to be any specific explanation for this one. They just do it for pleasure. Sunglasses, as well as regular glasses, can be an integral part of your look as a cool accessory. Anyway, they're usually a prescription, and most people wear them because of short-sightedness. The public toilet experience may be a challenge for you, but not if you're in Japan. There's always music in the bathrooms. Bidet is quite a regular thing for this country too. The toilets look high-tech, and they really are. In fact, over 80% of Japanese households have a bidet toilet. Not only are they super sanitary, but they also save water, using only 1 gallon per flush. In regular toilets, it takes about 3 gallons. If you're an introvert and love traveling alone, Japan is a top destination for you. In this country, it's totally okay to eat out enjoying your own company. For introverts who may feel lonely now and again, there are special cafes that feature cuddling services. In some restaurants in Japan, water is free, which is no real surprise. The surprise comes when you're offered some free tea. Waiters usually bring you some traditional tea while you're waiting for your order. Another unusual thing about Japanese restaurants is that you're not supposed to leave tips. People can even take offense if you do so. Good service is considered to be a standard, and it's already included in your order. So, hey, enjoy your meal. Talking about Japanese food, and I'm getting hungry, chopsticks are probably the first thing that comes to your mind. Still, a real Japanese dining experience has more ways of eating. You're not going to look impolite if you literally drink your miso soup right from the bowl. If the bowl is somewhat bigger than the one for miso, and the broth has noodles and other ingredients, don't be afraid to slurp this ramen away. Japanese are cool with slurping. There's one food hack for a Japanese meal. If you struggle a lot with chopsticks, especially eating rice, bring the bowl closer to your mouth. If the plate is pretty large, it's not recommended to pick it up. If you still struggle, it's okay to ask for a spoon unless the place you're dining in is traditional and expensive. Eating fruit in Japan can be quite expensive. Some fruit are exported from far away, which explains the price. Local farmers do their best to grow perfect, impeccable fruit. That's why peaches can cost up to 3,000 yen, which is about $300. Hey, how about a $21 apple? Yeah, rather pricey, but it's washed with honey and hand-picked to make sure there are no blemishes. Plus, these are one of the world's largest varieties of apples, some of them weighing up to 2 pounds. Japanese eat rice anytime, no matter if it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Another incredible fact about their food is that their sweets aren't actually sweet at all. Alright, not sweets, but rather desserts. Traditional Japanese desserts are usually made of chestnuts, matcha tea, or rice flour. They can even cook many desserts such as brownies, puddings, and chocolate bites using a special type of beans called azuki as the main ingredient. People in Japan believe that the dessert is good quality if it's not sweet. Japanese food is crazy, combining a bunch of unusual flavors in regular things. Hey, how about ice cream? Choose the flavor. There are potato, miso, wasabi, soy, and many other flavors. For those who like it extreme, there's even raw horse meat ice cream. That's really good horse. Yeah, right. These tastes are not very common for the Japanese either, though. Some other unusual foods feature hot dogs with noodles instead of sausage or unagi cola. Yeah, it's like eel plus cola. And if that's not enough, you can also find chocolate chip ramen in Japan. You can't beat it. Japanese always take their shoes off when they enter the house. They even have multiple slippers. For example, toilet slippers. Don't come inside a Japanese house with your shoes on. It's very impolite. Most cultures usually use handshakes for greetings, but in Japan, people mostly use bows for this purpose. The more times and the deeper you bow, the more respect you show to a person. There's a catch, though. If you bow too deep, it could be offensive. Bows are acceptable everywhere – supermarket, workplace, and even among friends. Sometimes, getting connected working on something on a train can be next to impossible because of the noise level. In Japan, nothing can distract you on a train, so you can even work. People usually don't even answer the phone there. Still, the Japanese aren't quiet all the time. Bars make a big part of the Japanese everyday culture, so it's pretty loud there. Watermelons are round, right? Well, not in Japan. Japanese farmers have a special technique for growing square watermelons. They grow it in a special container. This way, they can fit into a fridge easier. Some other shapes are available. For example, the fruit can be triangular or heart-shaped. The only drawback is that such fruits are quite pricey. Turning train seats in Japanese trains are super convenient. You can make a square if you travel in a group of friends. You can adjust your seat to the direction of the train. If you simply don't like your travel companions, you can just turn around too. You will probably never see a janitor in Japan because students have to clean up the schools by themselves. Japanese students even serve lunch. Plus, besides a regular school cleaning, they will go out now and again and clean up the neighborhood. The Japanese never stop inventing, and one of their recent innovations is their non-melting ice cream. Just imagine, you casually walk in the scorching sun, it's 90 degrees outside, and you're enjoying your ice cream, not being afraid of staining your shirt. The secret ingredient is polyphenol extracted from strawberries that prevents oils and water from separating, preserving the ice cream shape. In Japan, with such an abundance of vending machines, you seem to be likely to buy anything you want without ever going to a store. Vending machines sell everything from food to canned bread – yeah, it exists – super spicy snacks with warning disclaimers on the machine, and even toys. Anyways, the Japanese themselves are more likely to grab a quick snack in a store instead of those machines. Long ago, Japanese women would blacken their teeth instead of whitening. Pitch black objects were a kind of beauty standard. To dye the teeth black, they would use iron filing dissolved in vinegar plus some tea powder. And finally, if you want to wish someone a good day in Japan, do you say, "Have a bidet"? No, probably not. Apples you usually grab in the supermarket seem super fresh, but they can be up to a year old. It's all about how they're stored. First, they're covered with wax. Next, the wax is dried with hot air, and finally, the apples go into cold storage. Sloths are better at breath holding than dolphins. Those lazy buddies can slow their heart rate and hold their breath this way for up to 40 minutes. If they watched any breathtaking series, they'd literally breathe once per episode. If you look at any old photograph, you'll see that people didn't have those big smiles we love to have in the photos today. First, photographers preferred to keep things serious, so instead of cheese, people would say prunes to keep their lips tight, and other things. Earth is not the only planet with water. Scientists from NASA strongly believe one of Jupiter's moons, Europa, has an ocean with twice as much water as we have on our planet. It's hidden under a thick layer of ice. Even Mars has some liquid water flowing. Cicadas are some of the biggest flying insects you can find out there. Most species are not that impressive, only about 1 to 2 inches long. Only. But the largest one, known as the empress cicada, has a body length of about 3 inches. In comparison, its wingspan reaches a whopping 8 inches. That's a really big bug. Not all goats peacefully munch on meadow grass. Some of them prefer climbing trees for food. Meet Moroccan goats, a natural phenomenon unique to North Africa. The thing is, they're way more attracted to argan tree fruits than to regular grass. That's quite understandable. Those fruits look just like golden apples. These goats are quite agile, so they easily climb up the trees to get the juicy treats. And they rarely need help from their nanny. Here's a creature that can technically live forever. You see, there's a species of jellyfish known as Turcephora dorida, or however you pronounce their name on the screen. Well, those guys have a superpower of respawning. So whenever they get any sort of physical damage or something, those jellyfish reset themselves back to the polyp stage and start all over again. Now let's test you. Are there more trees on Earth or stars in the Milky Way? If your answer is stars, sorry, you're wrong. According to scientists' estimations, there are up to 100 billion stars in our galaxy and about 3 trillion trees on Earth. Now that's impressive. Pluto still hasn't made a complete orbit since it was discovered. And now imagine that it was found back in 1930. It takes about 248 years for Pluto to make a full orbit around the Sun. By the way, Mercury is the fastest. It takes only about 88 days for this planet to make a full trip. However, Pluto will complete its first full orbit since its discovery in 2178. I can't wait. One more fun fact about planets: the dwarf planet Haumea has a very peculiar shape. It looks exactly like a potato. It's about the same size as Pluto and has rings similar to those Saturn has. If you ever want to find it, it's located beyond the orbit of Neptune. Nachos aren't some ancient Mexican food. They were invented less than 100 years ago. Ignacio Aña, nicknamed Nacho, is said to have created this dish in the 1940s. There's a nice story behind nachos. A regular customer got really hungry and asked if Ignacio could bring her and her 3 friends something different that day. He saw how hungry the ladies were and decided to cook something quick for them. He had to improvise using available ingredients, so he put some tortillas, grated loads of cheese on top of them, and heated the dish from above. To make the dish more savory, he added some jalapeno peppers on top. Mamie Finan, that very regular customer, asked what the name of the unusual snack was. Ignacio didn't think long and said the name was Nacho Special. Oranges aren't necessarily orange. If grown in subtropical regions, the climate isn't cold enough to break down the chlorophyll, so the fruit peel stays yellow or greenish. Such oranges usually get treated with ethylene gas that can help turn the oranges orange. Aren't you impressed with that? Okay, it's time for a little riddle for you. What's common between peanut butter and an engagement ring? Both of them contain diamonds. Scientists have learned how to turn peanut butter into diamonds. They extracted the oxygen from CO2. They got the carbon and then put it under intense pressure, and in the end, they got diamonds. In a jiff, I suppose. Pufferfish, also known as blowfish, are famous for 2 things. It's clumsy and it can literally turn into a sort of a balloon. Blowing themselves up helps them survive in the wild. They are inedible when swollen. Well, they're not entirely inedible even when they're deflated. Their poison is over 1,000 times more toxic than cyanide. Don't count on antidotes, they just don't exist. Or probably we need more time to find one. Not only can people become knights, but penguins to do that too. There's one living in Edinburgh, and it was granted knighthood back in 2008. Meet Nils Olaf III, the mascot and colonel-in-chief of the Norwegian King's Guard. So, what size of shoes do you wear? I bet it's way smaller than the size the Statue of Liberty wears. No statue needs shoes, but if the Statue of Liberty wanted to grab a pair of new sneakers, she'd need to look for size 879. No surprise here, she's 151 feet tall. These are our muscles that can cause goosebumps. These tiny fan-shaped muscles are called erector pili, and we have them at the base of every hair follicle. Whenever it's cold, they get contracted, which makes our hairs literally stand up, creating goosebumps. You may think you're not an athlete, but if you've ironed your clothes in very uncomfortable locations at least once, you already are. Well, sort of. Extreme ironing is an extreme sport where people take ironing boards to very unexpected places, such as forests, canoes, or mountains, and iron the clothes there. Some do that even on the top of bronze statues or underwater. And yeah, there are even official championships. Haven't these people heard of permanent press? Rap battles aren't something that appeared recently. In medieval England, there was something called flyting, which was very much like contemporary rap battles. It was quite popular in the 15th and 16th centuries, when 2 opponents mocked each other in an improvised battle. Tongue map says we have different parts for different tastes. Well, not really. There are individual taste buds that sense certain flavors more than they do with some others, but it doesn't mean one area can taste sweet better than the other. Studies show that all mouth areas have taste buds sensitive to all tastes. Chameleons don't change colors because they want to match their surroundings. That would probably be a very tiring thing to do. In reality, some other things like mood, temperature, or the amount of light they get affect their color. When chameleons relax and stretch cells, crystals that are inside of them are affected by the light. These reptiles use crystals to communicate with each other. So, for example, darker shades show that they're not in such a good mood. It's more like they feel kind of grumpy. Ah, beware the grumpy chameleon. Turkeys can blush just like people do. It works the same way. They blush when angry, excited, or even feel bad. You can see the skin on their necks and heads turn red. Opossums don't really sleep while hanging by their tails. You see that in cartoons and some photos, but in general, they don't. Their tails are strong, so these animals can grip branches and hold their weight, but only for shorter periods. Adults are really too heavy to stay in this position for too long, so they wouldn't get too much rest. So I could say hanging by their tail overnight is sort of impossible. Well, here's some facts you'll find hard to digest. Your stomach has a pretty incredible capacity, being able to hold up to half a gallon of liquids. That's a whole large bottle of Coke. It's pretty hard to estimate how much hard food you can eat because it's processed with your teeth before it gets to your stomach. There's definitely not enough room for a turkey, but a good-sized chicken would probably fit in it. If you were asked where your stomach was, you would probably point to your tummy. Sorry, that's wrong. It's actually up here, hidden in between your ribs. Scientists believe that the appendix will disappear eventually. Nobody really knows why we need it, but some researchers claim it might have existed to help our ancestors digest tree bark. Because it's no longer part of our daily diet, the appendix isn't necessary and can disappear from our bodies without any consequences. The appendix isn't the only obsolete part of our body. Wisdom teeth aren't that useful either. Yeah, they used to come in handy whenever our ancestors lost some of their teeth, but the only thing they help us lose now is the money we spend extracting them. Almost all of our body is covered with hairs, even if we don't notice them. They grow even in the belly button. Their purpose is to catch lint. Check it out. See? Your liver acts as your own personal bodyguard, protecting you from toxins and many other things you don't want hanging around in your body. It's also pretty indestructible and can even regenerate. Only about 43% of you is actually you. Over 50% of the cells in your body belong to tiny little creatures that mainly live in your gut. Still, even though your own cells are fewer than microbial ones, there are, on average, about 100 trillion of them in you. See, you're not alone. With this in mind, your own genes are less than half of what you really consist of. If you take all the microbes dwelling within your body and count their genes, you'll find between 2 to 20 million. If you sleep, it doesn't mean all of your body sleeps. In fact, sometimes your brain has to work even harder when you're asleep. It needs to process tons of information, and reports usually take a lot of time. The nose definitely gets a good rest while you're sleeping. Amazingly, your sense of smell basically deactivates at night. You wouldn't even be bothered if there was a really terrible smell in your bedroom. No comment. The nose is probably one of the most underappreciated parts of the body. We wouldn't even be able to enjoy eating without it. About 80% of the taste of any food is thanks to the nose and its ability to recognize odors. If you hold your nose while eating, you will taste almost nothing. With no sense of smell, you're likely to recognize food mostly by texture, so an onion might seem no different than a big refreshing apple. Yeah, try that and leave me a comment on how that goes. Scientists used to believe we could distinguish about 10,000 smells, but they were wrong. Recent research showed that people are actually able to distinguish between more than 1 trillion smells. We also remember them better than anything else, and smells can even evoke some distant memories. Your nose just doesn't help you breathe and catch odors, it filters the air for sensitive throats and lungs. If we inhale dry air, the nose moistens it, cools it, and heats it if it's necessary. Also, the nose cleans the air of dirt. When you age, your brain is gradually reducing in size. By age 75, it's much smaller than at 30, and it starts shrinking by the age of 40. It happens to everyone and doesn't affect your mental strength in any way. Our brain can store only 7 bits in its short-term memory. Don't even try to compare your brain with a phone capacity, not even the one you had back in 2005. That's why you can't even learn a phone number by heart. Our short-term memory functions just like a chalkboard. You can get some information, but sooner or later, you run out of space. To check your working memory capacity, try this test. Ask a friend to write a list of 10 words and read it to you. Most people recall 7 or fewer items from that list. Your RAM, or working memory, is an essential thing that we need to perform almost any everyday activity, including basic conversations, surfing the net, and even petting your dog. Our strongest and emotional memories are often fake. The central memory gives us the confidence to believe that we remember everything, even though most of the details are made up in our heads. Not only your brain shrinks as you get older, you too shrink dramatically. The bones get more brittle, the backbone gets compressed. A similar thing happens when you rest at night. Your bones kind of relax too. Because of this, you wake up taller in the mornings than you are at the end of the day. Among mammals, only humans can walk on 2 legs for their entire lives. You might think that kangaroos or gorillas move in the same way, but kangaroos use their tail as a 3rd leg, and gorillas use their long arms to keep balance. Your bones take part in metabolism too. Since they mostly consist of calcium, when there's not enough of this element in your blood, bones start shedding it into the bloodstream, balancing your body. The same reaction works in reverse too. When there's too much calcium in your blood, it goes into the bones to be stored for later. The only bone to have a sense of humor in your body is inside your upper arm. That's why it's called the humerus. Okay, I made that one up. Moving along. The only bones that never grow are found in our ears. We can hear thanks to these tiny bones because they have adapted to transmit sound vibrations. Doctors call them the oscular chain. One of these hearing bones, the stapes, is the smallest bone in your entire body. It's no larger than a grain of rice. Our height, shape of our body, and skin color depend a lot on where our ancestors used to live, but we can adapt to new conditions even within our own lifespan. For example, if you move from plains to the mountains, you'll eventually develop more red blood cells to compensate for the lack of oxygen. And naturally, if you move from a colder climate to a hotter and sunnier one, your skin will get darker to adapt. Our lifespan is programmed within our cells. They constantly renew and divide, but they have a sort of internal timer that stops at some point. Some cells also stop reproducing sooner than others. On average, cells cease dividing when we reach the age of 100. That means, if we could find a way to trick ourselves into turning off the timer, we could potentially live forever. Body fat isn't just a nuisance. It acts as insulation material, energy reserve, and shock absorber. Your body sends the most fat into your waist region because that's where your internal organs are. If something happens to you, this layer of fat might protect your vitals from irreparable damage. Heads up! Your skull isn't a single bone. It actually consists of 28 different bones, many of which are fused together to protect your brain. The mandible, or the lower jaw, is the only skull bone that isn't fixed to the bone around it. It's attached with connective tissues and muscles. This is what makes it so mobile. You can move it in any direction you like. Hey, you can actually masticate with your mandible, another word for chewing. You see, the strongest muscles in your body aren't in your arms or legs, they're in your head. The masseter is the main muscle responsible for chewing, and it needs to be the strongest for you to eat normally. And you know those muscles that allow you to move your ears? Those are temporalis, located above your temples. They also help you chew your food. Now, we've got 2 really fast muscles. They control the eyelid closing. In fact, they're the fastest muscles in our body. Eyes are fragile and need protection, so the reflex that protects them needs to be as fast as lightning. These muscles can shut the eyelids in less than a tenth of a second. People with double-jointed thumbs can bend them backward. It looks super unusual and very few people can do it. Still, it's totally okay. Even though it looks painful, it actually doesn't hurt at all for someone with a double-jointed thumb. Now, we recognize only purple-blue, green-yellow, and yellow-red colors. Everything else is a combination of these three. It's impossible to calculate how many of these combinations the human eye sees, because every single person has slight vision differences. But it's about 1 million combinations on average. You see?
Early Earth might have been purple, not green. There's a theory that ancient microbes used molecules other than chlorophyll to absorb sunlight. These molecules likely gave living organisms a violet tint. Scientists are almost sure that our planet once had 2 moons. One of them was a tiny thing, no larger than 750 miles across. Unfortunately, it crashed into the other moon, which is now Earth's only natural satellite. Until recently, there was one more object orbiting our planet. It was a temporary mini-moon called 2020 CD3. This tiny space rock, no bigger than 3 feet across, was pulled into our orbit more than a year ago. Astronomers believe the mini-moon left Earth's orbit in March. From 60 to 100 tons of space dust drift down to our planet's surface every day. These tiny cosmic particles are mostly released by comets, which are usually made of dust and ice. When the sun turns this ice into vapor, the remaining dust travels down to Earth. If you look at Earth from space, you'll see a blue ocean planet. Almost 70% of its surface is covered with water, and its average depth is 14,000 feet. But if you gathered all the water into a sphere, it would be a mere 870 miles across, just barely enough to cover Texas. And that's including all the water in the seas, oceans, rivers, lakes, ice caps, groundwater, and even those tiny droplets in the atmosphere. All Earth's air, yep, all 5,140 trillion tons of it, would make a slightly larger ball. By the way, the further away from the surface, the less dense the atmosphere is. That's why half of Earth's air is within the first 3 miles above the surface of the planet. Every 200,000 to 300,000 years, our planet goes through a magnetic pole reversal. It's not an instant process, though. It can last hundreds or even thousands of years. We live inside the sun. Its atmosphere stretches far beyond its visible surface. And even though Earth is 93 million miles away from the star, it's still within the reach of the sun's atmosphere. Auroras happen when charged particles from the sun get caught by Earth's magnetic field and crash into the upper atmosphere near the poles. The Hudson Bay of Canada is a gravitational anomaly. This area has lower gravity than any other place on Earth. You'd weigh less standing at the equator than at one of the planet's poles. Mars has only 15% of Earth's volume and less than 10% of its mass. And still, the red planet and Earth have almost the same landmass. It's because about 2/3 of our planet's surface is covered in water. The Pacific Ocean contains more than half of the world's free water. It's also by far the largest ocean. All Earth's continents could easily fit into the Pacific Basin. Our planet is gradually slowing down the speed of its rotation. It happens at an unhurried pace of 17 milliseconds per 100 years. Because of this, our days are becoming longer. And still, only after 140 million years, the day on Earth will last 25 hours. The ocean on Jupiter isn't made of water. It's filled with metallic hydrogen, and its depth is a staggering 25,000 miles. That's actually almost the same as the circumference of Earth. A year on Mercury is just 88 Earth days long. This planet also has an extremely squashed orbit. Its distance from the Sun varies from 28 to 43 million miles. Even when you're standing, sitting, or lying still, you're moving at more than 1,000 miles per hour. That's the speed at which our planet is spinning through space. At the same time, you'd be moving at this incredible pace only if you're at the equator. Pluto's atmosphere rises much higher above the surface of the dwarf planet than, let's say, the atmosphere of Earth. It also has more than 20 layers. All of them are cold and condensed. Methane gas is a byproduct of natural processes, and this very gas is present in the Martian atmosphere, which confuses astronomers to no end. Mars produces around 270 tons of methane per year. Scientists can't figure out where the gas is coming from. Earth's southernmost continent, Antarctica, is only the 5th largest one, but it contains almost 70% of the planet's fresh water and 90% of the world's ice. Antarctica is also considered to be a desert. The inner regions of this continent get just 2 inches of precipitation a year, in the form of snow, of course. Mercury's surface is wrinkled. It happened when the planet's iron core cooled down and contracted. The wrinkles can reach a height of 1 mile and stretch for hundreds of miles. Lots of rocks on Earth have a Martian origin. Scientists analyzed the chemical content of some meteorites found in the Sahara Desert, Antarctica, and other places, and it turned out these rocks had arrived from the Red Planet. The only asteroid belt in the solar system astronomers know about lies between Mars and Jupiter. There are thousands of asteroids in this region, but they're extremely widely spaced. If you had to go through that area, the chances of colliding with an asteroid would be almost non-existent. The 4 largest asteroids, sometimes called minor planets, contain half the mass of the entire belt. And still, the total weight of all the asteroids there is a mere 4% of the Moon's weight. Mercury is the most cratered planet in the solar system. Its craters are named after famous musicians, artists, and writers. The valley called Valles Marineris on Mars is more than 10 times larger than Earth's Grand Canyon. The origin of this valley puzzles astronomers. After all, Mars isn't a planet known for its active plate tectonics. Atmospheric pressure on Venus is 92 times greater than that on Earth. Venus also has a much denser atmosphere. That's why only big meteorites can make it to the planet's surface. The smaller ones get slowed down and fall into pieces before reaching the ground. Our planet has its magnetic field thanks to scorching hot liquid metal that's flowing inside its outer core. This creates electric currents, and they, in turn, generate the magnetic field. For the past 200 years, the planet's magnetic north pole has moved northward for about 600 miles. These days, it's traveling faster than it used to, 40 miles per year versus 10 miles per year several decades ago. Volcanoes on Pluto, which are called cryovolcanoes, spit not lava, but ice. Instead of molten rock, they erupt water, methane, and ammonia. Jupiter's mass is twice greater than the mass of all the other planets in the solar system combined. Earth is the densest planet in the solar system, but this density varies depending on the planet's part. For example, the crust is less dense than the solid metallic core. Saturn's upper atmosphere is divided into layers of clouds. Those at the top are made of ammonia ice. Then, there are water ice clouds, and below them, layers of sulfur ice and cold hydrogen. Uranus rotates on its side. The reason for such an unusual position could be a powerful ancient collision, but so far, it's just a theory. By the way, Uranus is the only planet sitting on its side. Venus rotates in the opposite direction to the Sun. The reason might be a powerful collision with an asteroid or another space object. Iapetus, one of Saturn's moons, has an unusual coloring. It's two-toned. One of its sides is dark with a slight reddish hue, while the other is bright. Scientists haven't cracked this mystery yet. Jupiter's moon Io has hundreds of active volcanoes on its surface. It's the most volcanically active body in the entire solar system. The moon is covered in lava lakes and plains of liquid rock. Plumes of sulfur spew up for almost 200 miles. It takes light more than 4 hours to travel from the Sun to Neptune. Of all the planets of the solar system, Jupiter has the shortest day. It lasts for 9 hours and 55 minutes. Such a rapid rotation speed gives the planet its slightly flattened shape.
Now, with selfies taking over the social media world, phone companies had to adapt to the way people hold their phones and use their cameras. Apparently, most users tilt their heads slightly to the right when taking selfies. With the camera located in the left corner, it makes it easier to make sure the camera will be in line with the usual tilt of selfie takers. Ooh, genius. This allows for a more natural look, making the image look better to leave you feeling great. Cameras on the back of most phones are on the left side as well. Sorry, left-handers, this was designed for the more common right-hander. Mount Everest might be getting all the attention, but Mauna Kea in Hawaii is technically the tallest mountain in the world. Measuring over 33,000 feet from base to summit, the only thing holding Mauna Kea back from the title is that it's mostly underwater. Australia is wider than the Moon. The Moon has a diameter of over 2,100 miles, while Australia's diameter from coast to coast is almost 2,500 miles. While it may be wider, the Moon wins with the land area, over 15 million square miles. Whew, that's huge. And all that cheese. Antididophobia is the fear that at any point, somewhere in the world, a duck or goose may be watching you. The person isn't necessarily afraid that the duck or goose will get too close to them or even touch them. They just don't like the feeling of being watched. It was first described in a comic strip to show how anyone can be afraid of anything. Anything can be a phobia. A duck just watching my every move would certainly give me the heebie-jeebies. I might just quack up. Crows are pretty good at recognizing people's faces and have even been found to remember people for a long time. This could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how nice you are to them. You don't want to come across a crow that's holding a grudge against you. You probably can't tell which crow is which very easily, so it might be better to play it safe and just give them all a little wave. In the city of Yoro in Central America, they have an annual event known as the Rain of Fish. Not that the locals get a choice for it anyways. Every year in May or June, a torrential rainstorm rolls through town, leaving a mass of fish flopping around in the streets. The phenomenon is believed to be caused by waterspouts or water tornadoes, which drop the fish far from home. Seafood delivery for free? Yes, please. A photon, the most basic part of light, takes thousands, maybe millions of years to travel from the sun's core to its surface. But it only takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds on average to get to your eye once it's at the surface. That means that the sunlight we see is very ancient, older than the human race itself. There are only 4 words in the English language which end in dos: tremendous, horrendous, stupendous, and hazardous. Sounds like the teacher's comment on my report card. A single strand of spaghetti onto your fork has a name. It's called a spaghetto. In the Italian language, an I at the end of the word means that it's plural, while an O is singular. This goes for all types, like gnocco instead of gnocchi, fettuccino instead of fettuccine, and raviolo for a single parcel of goodness. Accidentally eating one of those fruit stickers on apples, peaches, and pears shouldn't worry you at all. They can be eaten, but they aren't exactly edible. It'll just leave your body as everything else does. The glue used for them is regulated by the FDA, but it's still recommended that you wash the fruit and remove the sticker before chomping down on it. Dolphins not only have names for each other, but they'll call out for their friends specifically. Makes you wonder what names dolphins have for us when we get in the water. Hey, look, Frank, those hairless monkeys are back in the water again. German chocolate cake is one of the most delicious cakes out there. It's my all-time favorite, but its name has nothing to do with the country at all. Named after an American baker called Samuel German, who made the tasty treat in 1852. The Eiffel Tower can be 6 inches taller during the summer because of thermal expansion. When the iron heats up during really hot days, the iron particles expand, taking up even more space. 2 planets in our solar system rotate the opposite way as the others. Venus and Uranus have this backward rotation. Venus also has the longest day of any planet in our solar system, completing a rotation every 243 Earth days. A baby puffin has the adorable name of puffling. To feed its chick, the puffin parent will carry about 10 fish in its beak at a time. While you sleep, you can't smell anything, even really bad or potent smells. Our taste and smell senses are cut down by 50 to 20% during flights. This is why airplane food always tastes like cardboard or too salty. Sounds like a pretty convenient excuse from the airlines to me. Look at any watch advertisements, and the time on display should be 10:10. This is because of the positive effect it has. It looks like a smile, and usually the brand name of the watch is directly below the 12. Stewardesses is the longest word that is typed with only the left side of the keyboard. The word itself isn't used much anymore. Most people say flight attendant instead. Those dum-dums who call out, "Hey, you!" are normally invited to exit the aircraft mid-flight. The longest English word is a crazy 189,819 letters long. I won't spell it out here, but it's the full name for the large protein nicknamed Titan. To say this out loud would take over 3 hours. So grab a snack and settle back, because we're going to be here for a while. Nah, I wouldn't do that to you. Eunoia, at 6 letters long, is the shortest word in the English language that contains all 5 main vowels. Eunoia means beautiful thinking or well mind. It's rarely used these days in the medical field. And if you add 2 of them, you'd then have a para-eunoia. Nah, not really. Glass balls can bounce higher than rubber ones. When a rubber ball hits a surface, it deforms before returning to its original shape. And a lot of energy is lost in this process. A glass ball doesn't compress at all, keeping a lot of its energy for the bounce back up. Here's a flash. Kangaroos can't walk backward. Their long feet and heavy tail make walking impossible, forward or backward. They can move side to side with incredible agility, but jumping back is impossible because of that large muscular tail. So let's go to the hop. The loneliest creature on Earth is a whale that's been calling for a mate for a long time. Researchers identified the whale's abnormally high call decades ago, and is believed to have never received a response. The unknown whale is called lonely because it communicates at a frequency not used by any other whale in the Pacific Ocean. How sad. Meanwhile, the lyrebird can mimic almost any sound it hears, including chainsaws. The Australian species not only copy other birds, but other animals too, like koalas and dogs. In captivity, they'll also copy artificial sounds, such as car alarms, trucks, and chainsaws. The Northern Hemisphere holds roughly 90% of the world's population. No wonder the streets are so crowded up here. The cougar goes by more names than any other animal. The cougar has been given over 80 names. The puma, mountain lion, panther, and catamount are all the same thing. Just don't confuse them with bobcats, lynxes, jaguars, or leopards. They don't appreciate that. Most people can't lick their own elbow. The length of your arm combined with the flexibility of your joints makes this impossible for many. Your elbow is just far enough down on your arm that you can't reach it. Go ahead, try it. I'll wait. Okay, time's up. Octopuses and squids have beaks like birds. The beak is made of the same material that our fingernails are made of, keratin. They can also fit through anything that their beak can, making them the ultimate escape artist. Not you, Houdini. There are over 31 million seconds in a year. We recently discovered this tiny chameleon in Madagascar. At less than an inch long, it's the size of a seed and could fit easily on the tip of your finger. It's nicknamed the nano lizard and shows how many tiny creatures could be hiding out, undiscovered, away from the eyes of scientists and researchers. 11 plus 2 equals 13, of course, and 12 plus 1 equals 13. The 13 letters that make up these phrases equal each other in more ways than one. They are actually anagrams of each other. Wow. Anagrams, homonyms, and antidophobia. That's a mouthful, but not as sweet as my German chocolate cake. Hey, I'll take seconds. Squirrels' teeth never stop growing, but the animals wear them down by gnawing on nuts and other hard foods. The front of the rodent's teeth is actually orange. It's because they're covered in special tough enamel. Bet you're glad you don't have that to deal with. Some bird species don't mind munching on chili peppers. That's because they can't feel the heat. Peppers burn your mouth because they contain a special chemical, capsaicin, but birds don't have the taste buds needed to feel its effects. The rhino's horn is made of hair, or at least the same protein that makes up your hair and nails. This protein is called keratin. Such a horn is kinda unique since other animals have horns with a bony center. The woodpecker can peck the wood 20 times per second. This pace is almost too high for the human eye to notice. How much wood would a woodpecker peck if a woodpecker could peck wood? The number of pecks often reaches a total of 8,000 to 12,000 a day. A starfish does have eyes, one on the end of each of its arms. These eyes are light-sensitive groups of cells. Frogs don't need to drink water. Instead, they have an area known as the drinking patch. It's on their bellies and thighs. They use it to absorb water directly through the skin. Well, that could save some time. Most caterpillar species have around 4,000 muscles in their body, and almost 250 of them are in the head alone. Christmas tree worms are much more beautiful than you can imagine. But even though the pines look awesome, 2/3 of the worm's body is hidden in a calcium carbonate tube. And the point of this is, I don't have one. Narwhals' famous tusks are actually their teeth that are kind of turned inside out. These unicorns of the sea have just 2 teeth, and in males, one of them grows right through their upper lip. Unlike your teeth, this one is tough inside and sensitive and soft on the outside. The anteater doesn't have teeth, but it's not a problem. This creature has a super long tongue. This tongue helps the animal lap up more than 35,000 termites and ants every day. Well, that's one way to lick hunger. The flea can jump more than 200 times their body length. If humans had such an ability, they would jump as high as the Empire State Building. Woohoo! The red-eyed tree frog's eggs can hatch earlier if they sense their environment isn't safe. Small animals with fast metabolism see in slow-mo. This helps them escape larger creatures. Koalas' fingerprints are very, very similar to the human ones. Sometimes these animals' fingerprints even get confused at crime scenes, probably in Australia. The hippo's sweat is pink and not exactly sweat. It's a reddish, oily fluid. Its function is to not cool the body, but to moisturize the skin and protect it. This fluid also functions as an antibiotic. So, you get sunburn or cut, you can smear a hippo all over you. Polar bear skin is black, and the hairs of their coat are hollow and almost see-through. These animals have fur growing even on the bottom of their paws. This gives them a better grip on ice and protects against cold. Some species of tarantulas, some of the largest spiders in the world, can live without food for more than 2 years. I still think they're creepy. Platypuses close their eyes while swimming. They have special folds of skin covering their ears and eyes. They prevent water from getting inside. These animals' nostrils also have a watertight seal. Emus can't walk backwards, but scientists aren't sure why. These flightless birds are the only ones that have calf muscles. Emus can sprint really fast. They can also travel long distances, but they can't back up. Crocodiles can't move their tongue because it's attached to the mouth roof. It keeps the throat closed and protects the animal's airway. Water snakes, dolphins, whales, alligators, crocodiles, and turtles can drown. It'll happen if they stay underwater for too long. These animals can't breathe in the water. They can just hold their breath for a very long time. Only one species of birds can fly backwards. That's hummingbirds. Hey, go talk to the emu. These tiny birds can also beat their wings up to 80 times per second. Despite what elephant shrews look like, these small animals are more closely related to elephants than shrews. Maybe that's why they have their trademark trunk-like noses. Elephant shrews use them to munch on insects. True enough. Cats, as well as other felines, can't taste sweet things. They don't have the taste buds needed for that. Too bad, more for me. Flamingos can only eat with their heads upside down. That's why their lower bill is massive and their upper bill isn't fixed. Such an arrangement is perfect for upside-down feeding. But it's the opposite of what other birds have. It's not easy being pink. Tiger skin is as striped as their fur. That's all I have to say about that. When toucans sleep, they curl into pretty tight balls. These birds can turn their head so that their tail covers their head and the beak rests on the back. So yeah, they have a ball. The ostrich has some of the largest eyes in the animal kingdom. They're more massive than a bird's brain. Each eye is as big as a billiard ball. All clownfish get born male, but in some circumstances they can turn into females. This change is irreversible. Unlike most fish, when seahorses mate, they do it for life. Even cuter, when the mates travel, they move side by side and often hold on to each other's tails. The male usually gets stuck schlepping the luggage. Termites never sleep. They don't need to recharge their batteries. But they can eat 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, on your house. The sloth needs up to 2 weeks to digest its food. Hey, take your time, no hurry, nothing on the schedule. Dogs' nose prints can be used for their identification. They are similar to human fingerprints and unique for each animal. Owls don't have eyeballs. Instead, they have eye tubes that don't move in the eye sockets. Penguins don't have external ears, but their hearing is especially sharp, especially when they're on the lookout for polar bears. Shh, let's not tell them. Jellyfish are up to 98% water. That's why when they get washed ashore, their bodies can evaporate into the air after just a few hours. If a traffic jam happens underwater, an alligator will always give way to a manatee. Nice manners. Grizzly bears have such a strong bite that they can crush a bowling ball. So it's smart just to let them win. Giant pandas aren't picky about their sleeping spots. They usually fall asleep wherever they are, in most cases right on the forest floor. The giant panda's newborn cubs are tiny. They weigh like a small cup of coffee and are smaller than a mouse. The red handfish can walk along the ocean floor with the help of its hands. But of course, they are not hands, but evolved fins. Really. Cats don't usually meow at each other. A study has shown the felines use this way of communication mostly to get attention from us humans. And it works. Sloths can't shiver. It's not that they're too busy digesting that 2-week-old meal. Their fur is sometimes covered with algae, and when they get too hot or too cold, their metabolism shuts down. During the hard times, immortal jellyfish transform themselves back into their younger state. Once they reach the stage when they're nothing but a blob of tissue, like me, these creatures start to grow again, and this process can apparently repeat again and again. The closest living relatives of the T-Rex are chickens and ostriches. Don't turn your back. The moray eel has another set of jaws that can extend from his throat. First, the main jaws close around an unlucky sea creature. Then the additional set grabs the eel's future meal with backward-pointing razor-sharp teeth. And after that, the captured animal gets dragged back into the eel's throat. I just lost my appetite. Some species of snails have hairy shells. Thanks to these hairs, snails can better stick to wet surfaces. When humpback whales hunt, they often gather in a group and apply a bubble net tactic to catch their food. The bubbles don't let the schools of fish get away. Snow leopards can't roar like other large felines. It has to do with their less developed vocal cords. But these animals can meow, growl, hiss, and even purr. Not to drift away from their group while napping, sea otters hold hands. They can also entangle themselves in giant seaweed for the same purpose. Hey, it kelps. Lions are often called the king of the prairie. I thought it was the king of the jungle. And still, up to 90% of all the hunting in the pride is done by the females. The males are in charge of protecting the territory and the pride members. And they make the delicious potato salad known as Hakuna Matata. Cats are famous for their uncanny ability to move their ears, all because kitties have 32 muscles in each outer ear. Some shark species can glow in the dark. Unfortunately, only other sharks can see this greenish glimmer. You have up to 8,000 taste buds, but your pooch has just a bit over 1,500. The blue jay can imitate other birds. Its favorite is a hawk's call. The blue jay uses it to scare away other birds from its territory. Slow lories are insanely cute and just as treacherous. They're the only known venomous primates. They have a gland in the crook of their inner arm. It secretes toxins that can cause unpleasant consequences in people. The hartebeest has an amazing evasion tactic. To run away from other animals, they move in a zigzag pattern. Bottlenose dolphins have names for one another. Those are specific whistles. Hey Bob, hey Charlie, hey Dolly, hey boys, and thanks for all the fish. Giraffes have long, and I mean it, black tongues. Scientists suppose this color might protect the tongue from getting sunburned. Well, that's all I got. See ya. It takes about a month for all the skin cells to renew. We shed about 30,000 dead cells every 60 seconds, losing about 9 pounds of skin every year. So, when your friends call you flaky, they're not entirely wrong. Our fingernails grow way faster than toenails. The latter grow almost 4 times slower because they're less frequently damaged than fingernails. Even though we often stumble on them, sudden circulation burst usually doesn't last long. An eyelash is only here to stay for 150 days. The world eyelash record was about 3 inches long. They're also home for tiny mites. We blink about 4,200,000 times a year, at least once every 8 seconds. When we sneeze, the air that we blow speeds out at 100 miles per hour. It could accelerate faster than a brand new Ferrari. Also, you could fracture a rib if you sneeze too hard. Depending on the person, a human produces from half a quart to a full quart of saliva every single day. That's enough saliva to fill several bathtubs in a year. No spit. Saliva acts as a perfect remedy. Wounds in our mouth heal way faster than elsewhere. It also helps to taste food. Our taste buds are ready to perceive it only when it's dissolved in saliva. Now, it may sound crazy, but our bones are stronger than they seem. A cubic inch of human bone can bear about 19,000 pounds, making it 4 times stronger than concrete. The only thing that makes our blood type different is sugar. AB and AB types have 5 types of sugars, while O has only 4, which makes it perfect for donors. Lack of additional sugar doesn't make O type less sweet. In fact, it attracts mosquitoes even more than other blood types. People have only 8 blood types, while cows have 800 and possibly more. Usually, we shed about 50 to 150 hairs a day. An average lifespan of a hair is 5 years, and as soon as an old hair says goodbye to your scalp, a new one starts growing immediately. A human hair is stronger than the same diameter copper wire. A single hair can hold up to 3.4 ounces of weight, and if used properly, a full head can hold up to 18,500 pounds. Our stomach is bigger than it may seem, with a capacity of nearly half a pound when needed, while the average is around 32 ounces. The food is digested within 4 to 6 hours, and it can also dissolve metal, so capacity matters. Lips are much more sensitive than fingers, having around 1 million nerve endings. They are 100 times as sensitive as the tips of fingers. Grooves and furrows make our lip print unique, just like fingerprints are. They also remain unchanged throughout our life. Tongue print is unique too, by the way. So, when are we going to see a tongue print reader? Our belly buttons have an entire zoo in them, with a range of about 70 different bacteria. Some of them can also be found in soil in Japan, and even several kinds of bacteria typical for polar ice caps. Our bodies actually glow. Now, we can't see that with the naked eye though, because the light we emit is 1,000 times less intense than the minimum level we can perceive. Humans are the only living things on Earth that can actually blush, or need to, according to Mark Twain. Blushing is provoked by an adrenaline rush. Carmine, used in blushes and lipsticks, is red dye made up of ground-up beetles. Ew. Your ears keep growing throughout your life. They do sweat too, and earwax is actually the kind of sweat they produce. By the way, your nose never stops growing either. Your heart is the only muscle that never gets tired. The aorta is massive. Its diameter is almost as large as a hose in your garden. We emit about 16 to 48 ounces of gases every day, which is enough to fill a small balloon. Okay, you can insert the appropriate sound effect here. Good job. Fat helps our bodies consume vitamins. Such vitamins as A, D, K, and E can be properly absorbed only when they're dissolved in fat. Our bodies have enough fat to produce 7 bars of soap. Blackheads made of sebum aren't black because they're dirty. They get dark because the debris is oxidized. Some parts of your brain can eat up their own neurons and proteins if you don't provide enough sleep. For example, the hypothalamus that's responsible for your sleep, hunger, and body temperature can do that. You can't inhale and swallow at the same time. I know you've just tried it. That thing called the pharynx is used as an air passage when you inhale, or as a food passage when you swallow. When we're awake, our brain may produce enough energy to turn an electric bulb on. It generates about 10 watts of power. You carry enough bacteria in your body to fill a can. Bacteria make about 3 to 5 pounds of your weight, representing 2% of our total weight. Still, most of them are the waste that our body has. The normal body temperature is considered to be at a range of 97 to 99 degrees Fahrenheit. The highest fever ever recorded was a critical 115 degrees. Oh, and that person survived. The pinky finger may be the smallest one, but it's the strongest one too. It has 50% of all strength of your hand. A human has about 20,000 to 25,000 genes. Still, cornflakes have more genes than we do. Luckily, it's about sophistication, not the quality this time. Cornflakes 1, human 0. The iron our bodies have is enough to produce 3 nails, each 1 inch long. The carbon that we have can be used for 900 pencils. Your liver has a superpower of growing back removed parts. It can regenerate to the original size from as little as a quarter of itself. The coolest camera so far has 400 megapixels. A human eye has 576. That's why the sunsets are so much better in real life than in the photos. A roller coaster actually tosses your organs around. When you feel as if your stomach's turning over, it might actually be the case. Even though every person on Earth has an absolutely unique smell, identical twins smell exactly the same. It must be because they have identical genes. Almost half of your taste buds will have gone away by the time you turn 60. Your sense of smell gets less acute as you get older too. When you cough, you release the air at about 60 miles per hour. Turnips can be a great remedy for cough. Just slice them and add some honey on top. A tablespoon 3 times a day is enough. Our skin is the biggest organ that we have. It's also one of the heaviest organs, weighing up to 9 pounds. Hiccups is a 2-step process. First, you inhale a lot of air because of a muscle spasm, and then, bang, the airways are closed, the air is blocked, and the famous sound goes inside. We don't smell when we sleep. That's why it's almost impossible to notice a gas leak at night. While sleeping, we can only rely on sound. Well, actually, we can technically smell while we sleep, but normally a good shower can eliminate that. Out of all the senses we have, smell is the most acute one. We remember 65% of smells after a year, but only 50% of things we've seen over the last 3 weeks. We also get a new nose every 28 days, because nose cells are renewed every 4 weeks. As for taste, again, we mostly rely on our smell, since it helps us perceive up to 95% of the flavor. Without our smell sense, it'd be hard to tell an apple from a turnip. While a bunch of flowers may be fragrant for you, there are people who suffer from cacosmia. They always seem to smell something unpleasant, even if there's nothing like that around. We need ears, not only for hearing, but for balance too. Our vestibular system occupies the inner ear. Canals in your inner ear contain fluid and tiny hair-like sensors helping you keep your balance. If you have red eyes in a photo, blame it on bouncing light. The flash jumps off the blood vessels at the back of your eyes, creating that effect. All the bones in your body are connected to each other except for the hyoid. This bone serves as a support to your tongue, and it's one of the rarest bones to break.
The Mozilla Firefox logo is a fox embracing the planet. The original browser's logo was a phoenix bird reborn from its flames, designed in 2002. Back then, the browser was named Mozilla Firebird. 2 years later, they changed the name to Firefox. It's the English nickname for the red panda. It's a rare and protected animal from Asia. There's a bear standing on its hind legs hidden within the famous Toblerone logo. The mountain-shaped chocolate bar was created in Bern, the Swiss capital, by Emil Baumann and Theodor Tobler. It's nicknamed the City of Bears. It has a bear featured on its coat of arms. That's why this animal is featured in the image of the Matterhorn mountain that inspired the logo. The image of a happy girl in Wendy's logo was inspired by the daughter of the fast food chain's creator, Dave Thomas. Wendy is her nickname. If you look closer, you'll notice her collar spells out the word Mom. Whether intentional or not, it became something to mean a homely feel the restaurant gives its guests. 9:41, set as the time in iPhone's ads, isn't a random choice of numbers. In 2007, Steve Jobs first introduced the iPhone to the public after a 41-minute presentation at exactly 9:41 a.m. The first Apple logo was designed in 1976 and featured Sir Isaac Newton sitting under a tree, with an apple about to fall on his head. It seemed too complex and unclear to many, so Steve Jobs wanted it replaced. The designer of the new logo, Rob Yanoff, made it an apple we all know today. He was most likely inspired by the original logo, but wanted to make it more simple. He added the bite so that no one would confuse it with a cherry, a peach, or any other round fruit with a stem. Without realizing it, he added a fun pun to the logo. Bite seems very much like the computer term. Toyota's logo symbolizes the merge of the hearts of customers and the company. Two overlapping ovals stand for T for Toyota and the steering wheel. The outer oval is for the world-embracing Toyota. The background space represents the infinite values of the company. Great quality, value beyond expectation, the joy of driving, innovation and integrity and safety, the environment and social responsibility. Life insurance for Apollo 11 astronauts cost a fortune, since the mission was so risky and unpredictable. The astronauts couldn't afford it, so they signed hundreds of covers that their families could sell to fund some big expenses in case anything went wrong. Snickers candy bar was created by Frank Mars, founder of Mars Inc. It was inspired by an already existing snack made of nougat, peanut, and caramel, and named after Mars's family horse. Until 1990, they called it a marathon candy bar in the UK. As soon as they switched the name to Snickers there, it went from the #1 selling candy bar in Britain to the #3. When NBC's logo was developed, color televisions were revolutionary gadgets. The logo with a rainbow of colors points it out. The peacock illustrates the phrase, "as proud as a peacock." It was meant to show they were proud of their new color system. The 6 different colors of the feathers represent the 6 different divisions of NBC. The yellow arrow in the Amazon logo that starts at A and ends at Z shows you can buy anything from them, from A to Z. It also looks like a smile, symbolizing the happiness of their customers. The original name of the business was not Amazon, but Cadabra Inc. Jeff Bezos experimented with different names for his website as well, and one of them, Relentless.com, still redirects to Amazon. Papa John's Pizza CEO, John Schnatter, started his business in a broom closet in a bar he co-owned with his dad in Indiana in 1984. Over the years, it has grown to the third largest pizza chain in the world, with 5,500 restaurants in 49 countries. Baskin-Robbins has 31 different flavors, and the letters B and R in the logo hide this number. The B curve stands for 3, and the stem of the R stands for 1. You can visit the first website ever created, called the World Wide Web Project, even today. It went live in 1991 and now serves as a historical archive about the World Wide Web. It doesn't have a single picture, just text. The web itself was invented by Tim Berners-Lee, a British scientist working at CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research, in 1989. The first product ever scanned at a supermarket was a 10-pack of Wrigley Juicy Fruit Gum in 1974 in Troy, Ohio. The barcode was invented and patented back in 1952, but the idea only took off when its inventor started working for IBM. Until then, grocery clerks had to put a price sticker on every item, and cashiers had to read those tags and type the price by hand. The Quicksilver logo is a customized version of the Great Wave off Kanagawa, a famous wood print by Japanese artist Hokusai. When Quicksilver expanded their business and started a woman's brand Roxy, they mirrored their logo so that one looks like a heart. Until 2010, rural broadband internet was slower than carrier pigeons. In a speed test, they let pigeons with USB sticks fly from a Yorkshire farm to cover the distance of 50 miles. They finished the race an hour and a quarter later. By this time, only 24% of a 300 megabyte file had been uploaded. Picasa lets you organize and view your images online, and its logo is more than a simple colorful camera shutter. The white space in the middle forms a house, meaning it will be a safe home for your photos. It also has a house or casa in its name, and P stands for pixels. Letters L and G in the LG logo form a human face. L is the nose, and G represents the rest of it. They call it the face of the future. And the idea was to give the brand some human element and make it friendlier. Many tech companies test their new products in New Zealand. It's an ethnically diverse country with English-speaking people, and most importantly, it's so isolated, news about product failure won't spread quickly. FedEx logo might seem basic when it comes to its colors and font, but it's hiding an arrow between the letters E and X. It stands for speed, accuracy, striving for perfection, and perseverance in achieving goals. The 4 rings in the Audi logo represent the 4 companies that blended together to form it: Audi, DKW, Porsche, and Wanderer. The latter started as a bicycle repair shop. Gillette Company, famous for its razors, wanted their logo to be as sharp and precise as possible. This is how they ended up with a cut between G and I that forms blade-like shapes on top of each other. Black and white colors in the logo symbolize the elegance, purity, prestige, and excellence of the products. Some people have a fear of technology, aka technophobia. Now, it mostly has to do with complex new devices like computers, but it has its roots back in the time of the Industrial Revolution. It began in the 18th century when workers were afraid new machines would take their jobs. Google rents goats from a special company in California to mow their lawns. They bring about 200 goats to Google headquarters at Mountain View. It takes them around 1 week to eat all the unnecessary grass and fertilize the land. The founders of Domino's were originally planning to add a dot to the Domino's in the logo for every new place they opened, but it was growing way too fast and too big for that, so they decided to keep just 3 dots for the 3 original locations. In 2004, @ became the first new character to be added to Morse code for the first time in at least 60 years. It consists of the signals for A and C with no break in between, so you can spell your email in Morse code now if you ever have to. In its 150-year history, Levi's had 8 logo redesigns. The first one was called the 2-Horse brand. It had a lot of detail in it. The current logo, known as Batwing, is over 50 years old and represents the shape of a pocket you can find on every pair of Levi's jeans. It's supposed to give a youthful yet timeless feel. Evernote app stores your notes and has an elephant for its logo because the saying goes, an elephant never forgets. And these animals do have an impressive memory. The ear on the elephant is curled over, like a post-it note. The H in the Hyundai logo isn't just for the company's name. It's the outlines of two people firmly shaking hands. It's an exchange of trust between the company and its customers. The oval around the figures is a symbol of Hyundai's global expansion. The silver color symbolizes sophistication and perfection. The digital blue version reflects reliability and excellence. Lacoste got its iconic logo thanks to a bet René Lacoste, co-founder of the company and tennis player, made with the captain of the French Davis Cup team. The captain promised to give Lacoste a crocodile skin suitcase if he won the match. Lacoste didn't win, but got his nickname Crocodile out of it. He had a crocodile embroidered on his tennis court blazer. When it was time to launch his apparel brand, the crocodile came in handy. Oreos are the world's most popular manufactured cookie, with over 40 billion pieces produced every year. Originally, they were sold by weight at the price of $2.35 for 9¼ pounds. A circle topped with a 2-bar cross stamped on each cookie is a Nabisco logo that is a European symbol of quality. When Michael Dell started his company in 1984, he planned to turn the world on its ear with his business. That's why the E in Dell's logo is slanted. The blue color stands for loyalty, trustworthiness, confidence, and intelligence. The first mechanical alarm clock could only ring at one time, at 4 a.m. It was invented by Levi Hutchins in 1787 in Concord, New Hampshire. Hutchins designed the device to wake him up for work. The early prototype of alarm clocks was invented by the Greeks in 250 BCE. They used rising water to bring a whistle into action. Airbnb's logo isn't a bent paperclip. It's called a bellow for belonging. It's a person's head, the location symbol, a pin, and a heart for love. Together, these symbols make Airbnb's famous A. In 2006, Qatar Telecom organized a charity auction where they sold the phone number 666-6666 to an anonymous bidder for $2.75 million. It became the most expensive phone number in the world. Segway Polo is a legit sport with functional teams from all corners of the globe. It doesn't require a particular fitness level, has no age restrictions, and is gaining popularity. There are 4 8-minute sections of the game, and the goal is to knock the ball into the goal using a special hammer. If you take a closer look at the Tour de France logo, you'll notice a cyclist hiding in the O, U, and R. The second hidden message here is the yellow circle, representing the stages of the race that only occur during the daytime. Phantom vibration syndrome is how you call that feeling when you think your phone is vibrating, but it isn't. If you often experience that, it might be a sign you're over-involved with your phone. Sony Vaio logo symbolizes the integration of analog and digital technologies in its products. The letters V and A look like an analog wave. The letters I and O are there to resemble the numbers 1 and 0 for a digital signal or binary code. The original Xbox had edited sound bites from actual transmissions from the Apollo space missions. If you left it on the home screen, you'd eventually hear fragments of real chatter from the mission. Pinterest lets you pin stuff you find interesting to your online boards. Its logo shows exactly that. It's a pin design hidden in the letter P. Pin-shaped Ps are an important part of Pinterest branding, to get people to pin more things by mimicking the action of pushing a pin into a board. Pepsi spent around $1 million to design its logo with many secret meanings. It hints at Feng Shui, the Renaissance, the Earth's magnetic field, the theory of relativity, Mona Lisa, and the Parthenon, among other things, and is supposed to serve as the key to the universe. Nintendo was founded back in 1889, long before computers, as a playing card company. They still produce those in Japan and even organize a bridge tournament called the Nintendo Cup. In 1973, a Motorola engineer made the first cell phone call in history from 6th Avenue in New York City. He was using a 2.5-pound prototype to call a rival from Bell Laboratories. There was silence at the other end of the line. The phone was almost the size of a shoebox, allowed its owner to talk for 35 hours, and needed 10 hours to recharge. The first commercial text message in history was sent on December 3, 1992, and was wishing happy holidays to the recipient, who was a Vodafone employee. Now the average number of texts sent is 6 billion per day. Apple used to have its clothing line in 1986, called the Apple Collection. They did it 1 year after Steve Jobs' temporary resignation. The idea was to see how far their fans would go in buying branded clothing, accessories, and lifestyle items. The horizontal lines in the IBM logo remind those times when photocopies had difficulties reproducing large blocks of solid ink. Originally, there were 13 lines in the logo, but then they reduced the number to 8 as they had ink bleeding problems with the 13 lines in their print media. The serif on the bottom of the M has an equal sign to show they value equality. 5 megabytes of data used to weigh 1 ton. In 1953, engineers in IBM's laboratory invented the first hard drive. The cabinet containing it weighed over 2,200 pounds and could hold just 5 megabytes of data. McDonald's logo isn't just a letter M, but also the symbol of the original golden arches of the restaurant chain. They realized prospective customers could see them well from the highway and would stop by. The world's first computer mouse was invented in 1964 and called XY position indicator for display systems. It was rectangular and made from wood with a little button on the top right. The inventor, Doug Engelbart, called it a mouse because of the cord coming from it that looked like that of a mouse. The name Mitsubishi is a combination of Mitsu, which means 3, and Hishi, which means water chestnut. The Japanese use this word to denote a diamond shape, so, put together, the brand name translates as 3 diamonds. The shield shape of the NFL logo symbolizes the league's commitment to the highest standard of sporting entertainment. The 8 stars stand for the 8 divisions currently used in the NFL. The first word that has ever been auto-corrected was te. To do it, you had to press the left arrow and F3. Northwest Airlines logo has an N and a W in negative spaces. The triangle in the circle is a compass that points northwest. The airlines were flying up high from 1926 until 2010 when they merged with Delta. A study from Beth Israel Medical Center in New York showed that surgeons who grew up playing video games more than 3 hours per week make 37% fewer errors, perform 27% faster, and scored 42% better at the test of surgical skills. The Mercedes-Benz brand is a product of merging the companies of Gottlieb Daimler and Carl Benz. Benz company's logo that was Benz lettering, surrounded by a laurel wreath, was registered as a trademark in 1909. Daimler had a Mercedes star for a logo. When the companies merged in 1925, they got a new shared logo of Daimler's Mercedes star in Benz's laurel wreath. The star has 3 points that represent land, sea, and air. These are the 3 environments the company originally planned to dominate. Carrefour translates into English as crossroads and has a logical logo of 2 stylized arrows, symbolizing the different directions you can take. The logo is in the French national colors of red, blue, and white. In the white space between the arrows forms the letter C. Salvador Dali designed the Chupa Chups Lollipops logo. The artist put the existing text on a colored daisy-shaped background. He also wanted to move the logo to the top of the lollipop wrapper from the side, so that it would always be intact and visible to buyers. The first ever computer virus was developed in 1971. It was named the Creeper program and designed as a security test to see how it would spread between computers. Samsung was founded as a grocery store on March 1, 1938, which makes it 38 years and 1 month older than Apple, founded on April 1, 1976. The first phone was released to the public back in 1874. It took 3 years for it to be in the homes of around 50,000 people, and another 75 years to get to the 50 million people point. It only took the radio 38 years to get to the same number, and television made it in just 13 years. The Google logo seems pretty basic when it comes to colors. There's primary red, yellow, and blue. But they also added green that interrupts the primary color scheme. It's supposed to show that Google is an innovator that doesn't do what's expected of it and is unique from other companies. Shell Oil Giant has been around since 1904, and its yellow-red logo has changed a lot over the years. The original one was a more realistic picture of a pecten shell. The current logo is more stylized.
The tuatara is a reptile that has a third eye on top of its head. The eye has a retina, nerve connections, and a lens, but isn't used for seeing, as during growth it quickly becomes covered by scales. Scientists are still trying to find the eye's mysterious function. There's only one letter that doesn't appear in the name of any of the 50 U.S. states. There's a Z in Arizona, and even 2 pesky X's in New Mexico and Texas. But search a map and you won't find a single Q in any U.S. state name. It's estimated that a total of 108 billion people have lived on Earth throughout its history. Ever wondered what that tiny pocket in your jeans is for? It's a watch pocket and was originally intended as a place to store pocket watches. It dates back to 1879 as a new feature on a pair of Levi's jeans. Over 3 billion pounds of potatoes are used to make McDonald's fries every year, which is around 15% of all the potatoes grown in America in 2020. Unlike humans, cats don't have the same amount of toes on their front and back paws. They usually have 5 toes on their front paws, but only 4 on their back ones. If you've got a feline companion, go take a look. The entire population of Earth could fit inside Los Angeles. With the world's population being 7.5 billion, this seems crazy. But if everyone stood shoulder to shoulder, we could all fit inside 500 square miles. Pigs aren't the only animals that are great at finding truffles. Dogs are just as good thanks to their sense of smell and are now used more commonly. The current American flag was designed by a high school student. Bob Heft designed the flag for his history class in 1958 and was only given a B- for his efforts. Later, his design was chosen out of more than 1,500 others to become the new flag. His grade was unsurprisingly changed to an A after this. The pandas in your local zoo may look at home, but unless you're in China, they're just on vacation. That's because technically all pandas are on loan from China and are the property of that country. The sentence, "The quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog," uses every letter in the English language. In 1974, a full NASA spacesuit cost between $15 and $22 million. But over time, NASA hasn't replaced worn-out suits, leading to them only having 4 working EVA suits left. But have no fear, since 2009, NASA has been working to upgrade their outside-the-spaceship wardrobe with an investment of $200 million. Does that come with sequins? Hot water actually may freeze faster than cold water. This is because the cooled water at the bottom is denser than the hot water at the top, and this uneven temperature distribution speeds up the cooling process. In a 12-hour period, it's likely that an ant will only take 8 minutes of rest. They're really switching up the definition of a power nap. Camels have 3 sets of eyelids and 2 rows of eyelashes to protect them from the blowing sands of the desert. The letter X was first used to represent a kiss all the way back in 1763. It was first used in a letter written by British naturalist Gilbert White. No one actually knows if we're spelling William Shakespeare correctly, and it looks like the man himself wasn't too sure either. He signed his name in a number of ways. But it turned out he never signed anything as William Shakespeare, despite it being the accepted spelling today. The word swims still looks the same even when turned upside down, like that. A tiny percentage of the static that you see on old TV screens is residual radiation left over from the Big Bang. If you were to lift up the tail of a kangaroo, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this, the animal would no longer be able to hop. Kangaroos use their tails as a third leg to propel them forward and also to keep balance. So basically, they'd fall over. If you're heading to London to see the famous London Bridge, think again, as the original bridge is now in Arizona. By the 1960s, London Bridge was falling down. Really? And so the city decided to sell it to an American oil tycoon, Robert P. McCullough. It was disassembled, each piece labeled, shipped over to the US, and reassembled. It can now be found in Lake Havasu City. Movie trailers, those teasers of upcoming movies shown before the main feature, were originally shown after the movie, which is why they're called trailers. Oh. You don't have to worry about a crocodile mocking you, as they can't actually stick out their tongues. Crocs have a membrane in their mouth which prevents the tongue from moving. English is the most widely spoken language in the world, but 4 times more people speak it as a second language than as their mother tongue. Speaking of England, the crown jewels contain 2 of the largest cut diamonds of all time. The Cullinan diamond is the largest diamond ever found and is part of the sovereign's scepter with cross. The second gem is the aptly named Cullinan II, which is mounted in the impressive imperial state crown. So now you know. Every glass of water you drink probably contains water molecules that have also been drunk by a dinosaur. The dinosaurs were around for 186 million years, compared to humanity's 200,000, giving them a lot more time to drink Earth's water than us. Huge diamonds could be raining down on Jupiter and Saturn as you watch this video. That's because lightning storms turn methane into carbon, which gradually hardens as it falls and turns into diamonds. Beneath the Easter Island heads, they actually have hidden bodies. In the 1900s, archaeologists dug up 2 of the statues to find full torsos measuring 30 feet. The torso was 30 feet long, not that the statue had 30 feet. That would be weird. Next time you're struggling to concentrate when studying, try reaching for a stick of gum. A study found that participants who chewed gum while taking a memory test could stay focused longer than those who didn't. Now, common sense would suggest that trees have been around before most animals, as they produce oxygen for us to breathe. If you were to tell this to a shark, it would laugh, as the sea creatures were actually around long before trees. Sharks date back around 400 million years, with trees coming in about 50 million years later. Yeah, I want to see a shark laugh. Listen closely next time you turn on the hot and cold water taps, as water actually makes different pouring sounds depending on its temperature. The heat changes the thickness of the water, which changes the pitch of the sound it makes when it's poured. There may be a new suspect to add to police lineups, and that suspect is a koala bear. While gorillas and chimps have fingerprints similar to humans, so does the cuddly koala. The Comic Sans font has divided people across the world for decades, and has developed a reputation for being informal or unprofessional. This makes perfect sense given its creation, as designer Vincent Conner looked to his favorite comic books like Watchmen for inspiration. Think of the first thing that comes to your head when Transylvania is brought up. It's vampires, right? But Dracula's author Bram Stoker never actually visited the mountainous region of Romania, which cemented Transylvania in the legend of the vampire forever. The first college football game took place as far back as 1869 and was between Rutgers and Princeton. Rutgers won the game 6-4. If you're looking for a bodyguard from the animal kingdom, look no further. The silverback gorilla can lift up to 10 times its own body weight, which translates to a total of around 1,800 pounds. This makes them one of the strongest living mammals on Earth. Ever wondered how a city gets named? In Portland, it came down to a coin flip. If the coin had landed the other way around, we'd be calling it Boston, Oregon. Iceland is growing 2 inches every year. This is because it's divided by the North American and European tectonic plates. So as the plates push wider apart, the bigger Iceland gets. The average person will spend a whopping 6 months of their life waiting for red traffic lights to turn green. Poor yellow isn't even mentioned. Humans are the only animals with chins. While other animals, like the chimpanzee, share similarities with humans, like walking on 2 legs or having a jaw, none actually have that little bit of bone in the middle of the lower jaw. So hey, when you're feeling down, chin up. The phone's ringing. Must be something urgent. At 11 p.m.? Only all the gadgets in the house are silent. It's your ears that are ringing. You can also hear some hissing, whistling, buzzing, and even roaring. But all this noise doesn't have an external source. Ooh, that's why it's known as phantom sounds. They can occur in one or both ears, constantly or from time to time. They're usually most noticeable at night when nothing distracts you. Hearing noise in your ears is called tinnitus. It's quite common and affects 15 to 20% of people. Tinnitus starts in the part of your inner ear shaped like a snail. It's called the cochlea. Your middle ear picks up sound waves. They get translated into electrical impulses in the inner ear. Then, sensory nerves carry these impulses to your brain. If your inner ear works incorrectly, your brain can misinterpret the sounds. Tinnitus occurs when there are some changes in the cochlea's nerve. They can be caused by loud noise, like chainsaws, jackhammers, loud music, or shouting. Tinnitus can start after a head, neck, or ear injury, or after you begin to take certain medications. You can also hear ringing in your ears if you have some blood pressure issues. Elsewhere in the amazing human body, some of the bacteria living in your gut can produce electricity. Shocking. They give off electrons, and this creates tiny electrical currents. That's likely to be the bacteria's backup system, their way to generate energy. Humans are the only animals that have chins. Even our closest genetic relatives, gorillas and chimps, lack this small piece of bone that extends forward from the jaw. Their lower jaws slant down and back from their front teeth. Scientists still haven't figured out this mystery. The opinions about why people are made this way differ. Some researchers think chins help us chew our food. Others are sure they have something to do with speaking. A few of us think it's simply a special place to grow a goatee. Blinking keeps your eyes clean and moist. But that's not all. Every time you blink, you take a micro nap. Researchers from Washington University have found out that blinking makes your attention sharper and works as a teeny recharge. Ever seen tiny dots traveling in squiggly lines, especially when you're looking at a bright blue sky? These dots are only visible for a second or so and might look like itty-bitty worms. Those are your white blood cells moving through the capillaries in front of the retina. That's the light-sensitive tissue at the back of your eyes. Curiously, most people don't even notice the dots unless asked to pay attention. The pineal gland in your brain handles the production of melatonin. That's the very hormone that regulates your sleep patterns. The gland looks like a pine nut, and that's how it got its name. The human brain is 73% water, and the same is true about the heart. That's why if your brain loses even 2% of liquid, you start to feel tired. It also makes your memory worse, shortens your attention span, and puts a dampener on your mood. By the way, your brain makes sure you don't drink too little or too much water. After you swallow some liquid, your mouth and throat start to fire signals to your brain, telling it to stop drinking. Otherwise, you'd be gulping down water for the entire 10 to 60 minutes it takes the liquid to get to your cells. Your eyes can see something for a mere 13 milliseconds, and your brain will already process this image. For comparison, the average blink lasts from 100 to 400 milliseconds. Even though the tongue isn't the strongest muscle in your body, it never gets tired. That's because of the way it's built. It's made up of 8 interwoven muscles. But unlike other muscles in your body, these aren't situated around a supporting bone. The tongue's structure is similar to an elephant's trunk or an octopus's tentacles. Your body emits visible light. That's why they call me Sunny. You're the brightest at 4 p.m. and your glow is the least visible at 10 a.m. Unfortunately, this glowing is 1,000 times less intense than what your eyes can see. Sweat is mostly water mixed with proteins, sugars, ammonia, and a lot of other stuff. It even contains tiny amounts of trace metals like copper, zinc, nickel, iron, and so on. What makes sweat taste salty is the sodium it contains. Plus, the more salt you eat, the saltier your sweat is. Your body's trying to get rid of the excess, and the fastest way is to sweat it out. In an adult, the blood makes up 7 to 8% of the total body weight. About 55% of your blood is liquid plasma. The rest is red and white blood cells and platelets. They form clots and prevent bleeding. You can't swallow and breathe at the same time. The food you swallow and the air you breathe go down the same part of your throat at first. Only a bit deeper, the passage splits into the esophagus for food and liquid and trachea for air. When you swallow, your airway gets automatically closed off. This prevents you from accidentally inhaling food. But occasionally, it still happens. Your brain sometimes generates more than 48 thoughts in just 1 minute. That's almost 3,000 thoughts per hour and 69,000 per day. Fingernails grow faster on the dominant hand. If you use your right hand more, you'll have to trim nails on it more often. Fingernails also grow more quickly in the summer and during the day. You might keep in memory up to 10,000 different faces. Sure, it varies from person to person, and the average number is 5,000. It doesn't mean you can put a name to each of these faces. It's only about recognizing the features. Now, you might try to hide the truth, but your nose will always give you away. When a person tells a lie, the temperature around their nose and in the inner corners of their eyes goes up. This phenomenon is known as the Pinocchio effect. Women have more taste buds on the surface of their tongues than men do. That's one of the reasons why 35% of ladies and only 15% of guys are super tasters. Those are people who feel flavors more strongly than others. Your teeth are the only part of your body that can't repair itself. But the enamel they're covered with is one of the toughest things in the human body. Your heartbeat often syncs with the music you're listening to. If a piece has a continuous increase in volume or tempo, like rock, it can make your heart rate faster. Some classic music lowers heart rate and blood pressure. This phenomenon affects everyone, from professional musicians to amateurs and music lovers. There are 2 to 5 million sweat glands on your body. The sweat they produce is of 2 different kinds: stress sweat and regular sweat. Hey, don't sweat the small stuff, huh? The sweat caused by stress has fatty acids and proteins in it. And the regular sweat is mostly made up of water, salt, and a tiny bit of other substances. It's actually possible to brush your teeth too thoroughly and hard. This can wear down the enamel and make your teeth super sensitive to cold and hot foods. If you walked in the same direction for 12 hours a day, you would need around 800 days to travel around the globe. And don't forget your rubber boots for the ocean parts. If your stomach acid made contact with your skin, it would most likely eat a hole in it, all because of hydrochloric acid. This type of acid is incredibly potent. It can easily dissolve some metals, for example, magnesium or zinc. Hydrochloric acid is the main component of the gastric acid your stomach produces. It protects your immune system and gets rid of viruses and bacteria in the food you eat. This acid also helps your body break down, digest, and absorb all kinds of nutrients, including proteins. Your lips look red because there is a great concentration of miniature blood capillaries right below the skin. Your pinky is a powerful little thing. Without it, your hand would lose a significant part of its power. Your index and middle fingers cooperate with your thumb to grab and pinch, and your pinky, together with your ring finger, provides grip strength. The fattest organ in your body is your brain. Fat makes up at least 60% of its dry weight. This quality got the brain to the Guinness World Records. The organ contains around 25% of your body's cholesterol, which is vital for the brain's well-being. So, is that where the term fathead comes from? Your skeletal cells never stop regenerating. That's why you get a new skeleton every 10 years or so. This process slows down with age, and the regeneration takes longer. That's one of the main reasons why bones become thinner. And there's a newly discovered type of brain cells crucial for visual search. They're called target cells. Without their help, you wouldn't be able to spot an acquaintance in a crowd or your dog in the park. Interestingly, target cells don't care what the thing you're searching for looks like. All they want to know is whether an object is your target or not. Hey, it's not picky. It's 6 a.m. and your first alarm goes off. You reach for it and hit the snooze button. 5 minutes later, the flying alarm gets into your bedroom. 10 minutes later, you have 2 alarms as loud as sirens and your dog barking like crazy trying to wake you up. This is your typical morning, so you decide to train yourself to get by with less sleep. Some people say you can reduce sleep time by an hour or 2 every night and feel just as good. Sleep experts debunk this myth. An average person needs between 6 and 9 hours a night. You must already know your number. You can force yourself into earlier wake-ups and feel seemingly well at first, but your sleep debt will gradually build up. As a result, your brain won't be able to function to its fullest if you don't get your needed rest time. Your concentration level will drop, your reaction will become slower, and you'll feel confused and distressed. If you know you'll have to reduce the amount of sleep for a certain period of time, try banking sleep in advance. Experiments prove going to bed a couple of hours earlier than usual every night for a week could help you suffer less once you have to sleep less. Don't make a habit out of it, though. Sleeping in on every weekend won't compensate for your sleep deprivation during the week. The 10-3-2-1-0 technique works miracles. The idea is to stop taking caffeine in any form 10 hours before bed. Then no food at all 3 hours before bed. You must stop working to take your mind off things 2 hours before sleep. No more screen time 1 hour before bed. That includes your phone, TV, and computer. The blue light emitted by them all disrupts your sleep. Finally, the 0 in the formula stands for the number of times you'll hit the snooze button in the morning. Experts confirm this technique can definitely work and help you sleep well and wake up energized the next morning. Rub the on me on spot 1 to 200 times to fall asleep in no time. That little spot is between your earlobe and the hairline that comes up the back of your neck. Videos of people rubbing it with their thumb or forefinger have gone viral. They say it helps to relax the nervous system. Sleep experts debunk this myth as sleep is about your brain and hormones and not about massaging yourself. One way the rubbing could work out is exhausting you so much you'd fall asleep eventually. Sleeping positions don't matter. Definitely a myth. The way your spinal column is aligned and your head is supported means a lot. A bad position can cause neck or back pain or make breathing uncomfortable. You most likely sleep in one of 3 positions. The majority of people are side sleepers. This lateral position is pretty good for you, especially if you prefer the left side. Try not to curl up though. It may prevent you from breathing deeply. Sleeping on your back is called the supine position. No matter if you sleep with your arms down and close to the body, or like a starfish with your arms up over your head, it could make your low back pain worse and take your snoring to the next level. This position is good for your neck though. If you prefer to sleep on your stomach, it's the prone position. It can help ease snoring but doesn't put your neck and spine in a neutral position and puts pressure on your nerves. Put your socks on to fall asleep faster. Now, a bad idea. It won't send you to dreamland instantly, but it can be one of the clues for your brain it's time for it. Wearing socks promotes blood circulation to your feet. The vessels widen and can get rid of heat much faster. This drops down your core body temperature faster than usual, and that's what you need for a good, healthy sleep. If you don't want to go to bed with your socks on, at least let some cool, fresh air in. Your body knows it's bedtime when its temperature drops and it gets the signal it needs some good rest. The process will be much slower in a room that's too warm. Cooler bedroom air also improves your sleep quality, and you won't wake up in the middle of the night drenched in sweat. It also stimulates melatonin production. When you have enough of it and serotonin in your brain, you'll wake up rested and happier the next day. Immersing your face in cold water for 30 seconds is another express way to slow down your heart rate and narrow the blood vessels. It sends your body into a relaxed hibernation mode. Squeeze your muscles and you'll doze off in no time. Progressive muscle relaxation really works. Your muscles have been working all day, and they also need to unwind, just like your mind. You can go from your head down to your toes or in the opposite direction. Start with a deep breath. Then tense your toes, hold them for 5 seconds, and then relax them for 30 seconds. Move to your calves and thighs, and do the same. Contract and relax. Continue to your abs and the backside. Move up to your hands, then arms and shoulders. Don't rush, go muscle by muscle, and focus your mind on what you're doing. No external thoughts allowed. Finally, work your chest, neck, and don't forget about your face. Tighten your jaws and then relax them. If you're feeling lazy to do all that, at least work out your toes as you lie in bed. Curling and uncurling them for a while is a great way to release the tension from your entire body. It's so repetitive, your body is slowly moving into sleep mode. The sound of frying bacon can make you sleepy. Science has it that the comforting and repetitive sound of bacon sends some chilling vibes to your brain. It's perfect for falling asleep and as white noise while you're working and need to focus on something. You don't have to fry bacon before bed. Listening to a recording of it will do. Speaking of bacon, certain foods can also help you drift off. The secret is to have Brinner, breakfast for dinner. Bananas help your muscles relax, thanks to potassium. Eggs are rich in protein that promotes healthy sleep. Almonds slow down your heart rate a bit. Oats and honey send the right amount of melatonin to your brain. Chicken or turkey has tryptophan in it, which boosts the production of relaxing mood hormones. Yogurt and other dairy products like milk have the same effect. Foods you should avoid before going to sleep, unless you want to be awake all night, are cheese, fatty foods, all things spicy, and of course, coffee. A long daytime nap is great for you. Naps are fine, but you better keep them under 1 hour and enjoy them before 2 to 3 p.m. If you nap for longer, you'll likely fall into the deep stages of sleep. You'll wake up with a groggy feeling and not refreshed at all. You'll also likely sleep off some of the sleep debt you have from the morning. It means you could have trouble falling asleep at night. To get the most productive nap, set an alarm to limit your nap to 10 to 20 minutes. Nap around the halfway point between your wake-up and the time you want to go to bed. Find a dark, cool, and quiet place. Don't think about your work tasks or problems. Focus on what you're going to get from this nap. You gotta stay awake all night to cure jet lag. This is a popular myth, as depriving yourself of sleep won't help you adjust to the new time zone. There is no cure for jet lag, but you could try spending as much time outside as you can. Natural light should help you feel better and get some sound sleep. You can start preparing yourself for your future trip ahead of time. If you're traveling east, say from New York to London with a 5-hour time difference, start shifting your schedule 4 or 5 days before the trip by 1 hour. So by the time you get there, you'll be used to local time. When it's time to go back home, the same tips will work. You can also start preparing yourself and adjusting your bedtime in advance. Hey, I want to go to London or New York, either one. Oceans cover 70% of the Earth. On average, the ocean is 8 Empire State Buildings deep, and less than 5% of its mysterious depths have been explored. It's even possible to find lakes and rivers beneath the ocean. They're denser than the rest of the water surrounding them, so you can clearly see the difference. When the coral is in shallow waters, intense sunlight can damage the algae living inside it. To protect the algae, the coral produces some proteins that act as some kind of sunscreen for it, so they really don't need to spend money on it. Okay, most of the ocean may not be explored, but what we do know is about 20 million tons of gold is dispersed through its dark waters. It's concentrated in really small amounts, which is why it doesn't pay off to mine it. If we could take it out, every person on the planet would get 9 pounds of gold. When sharks need their morning joe, they go to a cafe too. Back in 2002, researchers found an area in the Pacific Ocean called the White Shark Cafe, where great white sharks come during the winter. They simply hang out, tell jokes, and laugh at stories of how many humans they've scared, and then go back to the coast to scare us a little bit more when the weather gets warmer. Hey, have you had a great white latte? Try one. The widest point of the Pacific Ocean goes from Indonesia to Colombia, and at that part it's 12,300 miles across, over 5 times wider than the diameter of the moon. We might imagine oceans are cold, especially in depths where the temperature is only 40 degrees Fahrenheit. But there's an exception. Water that comes out of hydrothermal vents in the seafloor has a temperature of up to 750 degrees. Humans are the only animals whose brain gets smaller. Yup, as we get older, it tends to shrink. It can do so even because of isolation and loneliness. Other animals, even some of our distant cousins from another side of the family tree, like monkeys and chimpanzees, have no problem with that. I'm guessing television is the probable cause. Our eardrums have nothing to do with the sense of sight, but they still move when we move our eyes. In the average lifetime, our heart beats over 2.5 billion times. I've counted. Our nose can detect over 1 trillion smells, and our lips are hundreds of times more sensitive than the tips of our fingers. 2 of our body parts never stop growing: your nose and your ears. Cockroaches are tough. They can survive harsh conditions and have been around since dinosaurs ruled our planet. But the termite queen beats all that, with a lifespan of 50 years. That's the longest any insect can live. Regular termites live only 1 to 2 years. It's not the water camels store in their humps, but fat. They store water in their bloodstream. These can fly really high, more than 29,500 feet, which is even higher than Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on our planet. Sloths are able to hold their breath longer than dolphins. Yup, they slow their heart rates, and they can stay that way for almost 40 minutes. Dolphins have to come to the surface to catch some air every 10 minutes. The moon has volcanoes, and scientists believe these might have been active around 100 million years ago, when dinosaurs still ruled our planet. Wow, the view must have been magnificent. There are watermelons the size of a grape. Cucamelons, if you prefer, mouse melons, actually look like really small watermelons, but at the same time have a citrus flavor. Not just mouse melons, there's also the kangaroo mouse. This animal doesn't feel the need to drink water. It lives in the Nevada desert, and since its habitat is really dry, it simply learned to quench its thirst through seeds it likes to eat. You may think parking is expensive in the area where you live, but it's probably cheaper than a spot you'd pay in Hong Kong. Just a 135 square foot spot placed in front of the center, which is the 5th tallest building in the city, was purchased for almost $1 million. I'll take a bus ticket, please. Speaking of expensive, and I was, the world's priciest hot dog is $169, and you can try it out in Seattle, Washington. I don't have the money, but I am a little intrigued, must admit. An Australian barista set a world record for the most cappuccinos made in 1 hour. 420 of them. That's really a Java jive. You can taste garlic with your feet. Rub a clove right in your feet, of course take the socks off beforehand, and wait for it. The chemical responsible for its unique smell can be absorbed through the skin even though the clove was never in your mouth. By the way, lobsters can try out the same experiment. Well, they actually taste any food with their feet. Okay, researchers have found many things that are evidence of prehistoric animals or our human ancestors that lived thousands of years ago, like bones, teeth, stone tools, and a piece of chewing gum, dating from almost 10,000 years ago. In Tibet, there are black diamond apples that aren't green or red, but dark purple. The place where they grow has plenty of ultraviolet light over the day, while the temperatures drastically go down during the night, which makes the apple skin get a darker color. Australia has a lake of naturally bubblegum pink color. The unusual color is there because of the pigment from a certain type of algae living there. Clouds look so fluffy, like they're made of giant puffs of cotton, but the average one weighs around 1.1 million pounds, so please stay up there. A farmer from Iowa got hiccups that didn't stop for the next 68 years. First, hiccuping was about 40 times a minute, and after a while, 20 times. He actually spent 70% of his life hiccuping. 1 million seconds is somewhere around 12 days, and 1 billion seconds is almost 32 years. Nothing unusual here, just a little bit of good old math that reminds us how cool the time is. Okay, sharks may be scarier than humans, but our teeth are just as strong as theirs, just smaller. Until the beginning of the 19th century, Americans actually thought tomatoes were poisonous. So many tasty meals they missed believing that. Yup, farmers discovered not just people have regional accents, but cows also have different moos, according to the area where they live. Hey, do cows get moody? Giraffes have a tongue that's up to 20 inches long. Ooh, ice cream maybe? Actually, they can bend trees with their tongues. There's a specific type of jellyfish that's actually immortal. Hey, I can see that as a logo for a life insurance company. The Earth is orbiting the Sun, but not at a fixed speed rate. We don't sense it, but it's slowing as time goes by, so our day will become 25 hours long in about 175 million years. So don't plan that extra hour in your schedule just yet. Space is huge, duh. But there's obviously lots of empty spots since there are more trees, 3 trillion, on our planet than stars in the Milky Way, only about 300 to 400 billion. Wow. When someone mentions the biggest desert, you probably picture the endless sandy surface of the Sahara, burning under the hot sun. Well, not quite. The biggest desert is the Antarctic Polar Desert, which covers over 5.5 million square miles in Buffalo. No, Antarctica. Sounds strange at first, but the definition says a desert is a place that gets less than 10 inches of precipitation annually. Still, it doesn't say if it has to be hot. Ostriches don't actually hide their heads in the sand. When they sense danger, they lower down their head, neck, and body to the ground, which makes them a little bit less visible to predators. Their light-colored neck blends in with the sand, so it only looks like their head is hidden down there. The first commercial passenger flight happened at the beginning of the 20th century. It was a 23-minute flight that cost $400, which is about $8,500 today, and the plane flew between 2 cities in Florida. A famous Egyptian ruler, Cleopatra, lived closer to cell phones than to the time when the Great Pyramids of Egypt were completed. Well, that's a gap. Speaking of cell phones, every 2 minutes there are more photos taken than in the entire 19th century. Okay, let's add one more to those statistics. Cheese! So you have a sixth sense. It tells you where the various parts of your body are in space. Thanks to it, you can walk up a flight of stairs or touch your nose even with your eyes closed. Your vocal cords only produce a buzzing noise. Your nose, mouth, and throat determine what your voice will sound like. If you have a deep voice, your vocal cords are thicker and your cavities are larger than average, letting the sound resonate. By the time you wake up, you'll have forgotten 50% of your latest dream. After 10 minutes, you won't remember 90% of it. When you blush, your stomach lining goes red along with your face. It happens because your sympathetic nervous system's causing an increased blood flow throughout the body. Your hair follicles have the same receptors as your nasal passages. That's why your hair can detect scents too. Sandalwood can help you develop that superpower. Out of 5 million hair follicles on your body, only 100,000 are indeed on your head. An average human will have eaten 35 tons of food over a lifetime. That's like 3 school buses. No matter how hard you'll try, you'll never be able to tickle yourself. It's because your brain prepares the body for tickling and helps you avoid the typical laughing reaction. One human hair is so strong it can hold up to 3.5 ounces. If only the scalp were that strong as well, you'd be able to hold the weight of 2 elephants with your hair. Your eye has 256 unique characteristics, and your fingers, just 40 of them. That's why retinal scanning is more reliable than fingerprint scanning. 50% of your hand strength is in your little finger alone, yet the thumb is the most important finger. You wouldn't be able to grip without it. If you stretch out your arms to the sides, the distance from the middle fingertip of the left hand to that of the right hand is equal to your height. An average human produces enough saliva to fill 2 swimming pools over a lifetime. Hey, dive in! Your spine has a great memory. It remembers your posture, making it so difficult to change it for the better. You owe goosebumps to your ancestors for many years ago. Their hair used to stand up to make them look bigger and scarier to foes. Cats hiss and arch their backs for the same reason. Your left lung is a little smaller than your right lung to make some room for the heart. The right lung has 3 lobes and the left one just 2. Both of them are protected by your rib cage. Next time you get the hiccups, try bending over in a chair. Drinking from the far side of the glass also helps get rid of them. You can easily survive without your appendix, stomach, 1 kidney, or 1 lung. Hey, nice to know we have spare parts. A human eyebrow lives for about 4 months. After that, you get new ones. You, along with other humans, have the superpower of glowing in the dark, especially in the late afternoon. Your face has the strongest glow. Still, it's too dim for your eyes to pick it up unaided. The beating sound of your heart is, in fact, the clap of the valves inside opening and closing. The lyrics for that are lub-dub, lub-dub. You can't breathe and swallow at the same time. While you're breathing, the pipe leading to your stomach shuts down. When you're swallowing, the gateway to your lungs temporarily closes. Under 1% of all people are born with their hearts on the right side of the chest and not the left one. You blink 15 to 20 times per minute or 30,000 times a day. Your eyes have the fastest muscles in your entire body. They slow down to 5 blinks per minute when you're looking at a computer screen. Your eyes owe their color to a pigment called melanin. People with brown eyes have more melanin than green-eyed individuals. If you have blue eyes, it means the eye tissue is completely colorless. Your eyes get color just like water and the sky do. They scatter light and reflect blue light back. The first known person with blue eyes was born in the Stone Age, around 7,000 years ago. I wasn't around then. There are about 3 million sweat glands in your entire body. Many of them are on the soles of your feet and on your palms, forehead, armpits, and cheeks. With every sneeze, the air is traveling out of your nose at a speed of 100 miles per hour. There's no wax in your earwax. It's made of fat, skin cells, sweat, and dirt. Yum! Before you try to get rid of it, remember it protects the ear from bacteria, dirt, and dryness. Stress and fear boost its production. If someone made a camera out of the human eye, it would have a resolution of 576 megapixels. Your brain can hold up to 25 million gigabytes of data. Not my brain. You swallow every minute while you're awake and 3 times per hour when you sleep. That sums up to 600 swallows per day. Gulp. If you're left-handed, you most likely chew on the left side, and if you're right-handed, on the right side. Your fingerprints will always find a way to grow back their unique pattern, no matter how bad you damage them. Every human has a unique pattern of ridges and furrows in their ears. They also sound different, thanks to microscopic hair cells in your inner ears. You need a powerful microphone to pick up the noise they produce. The way you walk is your unique feature. Machines can easily distinguish your individual tiny ticks, bounces, and ways of swinging your legs you use with every step. Your sense of smell helps you taste 80% of the flavor of any food. That's why it seems so dull when you hold your nose or have a snack while traveling by airplane that makes your sense of smell weaker. Women are better at remembering faces and tasks for the future, but easily forget what has been done. It's the opposite for men. Your eyes can change color as you age, or even depending on your mood or dieting habits. 300 billion new cells are born in your body every day. Now that's recycling. Your fingers don't have a single muscle in them. Their joints move thanks to the muscles in the palm and the forearm. Your fingernails grow faster than your toenails. That's because you use them more actively, and they get more sunlight and air. Your eyes send a 2D upside-down image of the world to your brain. It quickly corrects it and turns it into a 3D right-side-up image that it's used to. There's more nerve cells and connections in your brain than there are stars in the Milky Way. If you decided to count them all, it would take you 3,000 years. To make it easier for you, you have around 100 billion neurons in there. The space between your eyebrows is officially called glabella. You're taller in the morning than in the evening. Gravity makes the cartilage around your bones compress over the day, making you shorter by the time you go to bed. In case you're right-handed, your fingernails on the right hand grow faster than your left one. That's because you use this hand more often and are more likely to damage it somehow. Your body's trying to protect it and sends more blood and nutrients its way. If you walk a healthy amount of steps every day, you'll have covered 100,000 miles by the time you're 80. It's like circling the equator 4 times. The largest muscle in your body is the gluteus maximus at the back of the hip, and you're sitting on it. But never mind. The tiniest muscle in your body is in the middle of your ear. Its main purpose is to stabilize the stapes, the tiniest bone in your body. It takes care of transmitting sound waves to your inner ear. You spend about 5 years of your lifetime eating, and 1/3 of your life sleeping. An average adult weighing 150 pounds has a skeleton weighing about 21 pounds. So I guess the remainder is meat and stuff. Your heart beats over 2.5 billion times over your lifetime. Your skin thickness is different throughout the body. You have the thickest skin on the palms of the hands and soles of the feet, and the thinnest is on your eyelids. It takes your skin cells 28 to 30 days to completely renew themselves. Even if you only have less than half of your liver left, it can still regenerate to its original size. Your taste buds only live for 10 to 14 days, then they renew. Then what, everything tastes fresh? Even when you're resting, your brain uses more than 20% of your body's energy to keep it going. The brain's main function of processing and transmitting data is really pricey when it comes to energy costs. Your big toe bears 40% of your body's weight. Without it, running and walking would be slower, shorter, and less efficient. Thanks to zero gravity, your discs in between each vertebra expand when you're in space. That's why you can grow up to 2 inches taller. An average adult body is home to 7 octillion atoms. That's 7 billion billion, or 7 followed by 27 zeros. Do the math. A caterpillar has more muscles than you do. It's 4,400 versus 650. Your peripheral vision is almost completely black and white. It's because you have more color-detecting cones in the center of your retina than at the sides. An average adult human body has enough fat in its cells to produce 7 bars of soap. Your sweat itself doesn't smell like anything. The bacteria living on your skin mix with it and give it that notorious smell. You get red eyes in photos because when the camera flash goes off, your pupils don't have enough time to constrict. A large burst of light reaches your retina and it bounces back. Your legs feel lead-heavy when you're afraid because of the adrenaline that gets in your system. It turns on the fight-or-flight reaction. Your body sends blood flow to your most needed areas to let you take action and protect yourself. Women can distinguish more colors than men because they have 2 X chromosomes and men only have 1. Even if something is wrong with one of the chromosomes, a woman can still see colors correctly. That's why women are rarely colorblind. No matter how slim or plump you are, you have the same exact amount of fat cells as everyone else. When you work out and diet, they don't go anywhere, but shrink in size and can grow back again. All muscles in your body are connected to bones at 2 ends to be able to pull and create motion. The only exception is your tongue. It's connected to a part of your neck on one side and is free on the other side, so you can make funny sounds. The weird-looking flies you see right in front of your eyes every now and then are eye floaters. You see them because of tiny structural imperfections in one particular part of the eye that get in the way of light. They get worse with age. Oh goody. An average woman speaks about 20,000 words a day, while an average man only speaks 7,000 words. That's because the brain region responsible for language skills and social interactions is larger in females. Your hands and feet alone would look rather creepy. They also contain more than half of the bones in your entire body. Each hand has 27 bones, and each foot has 26. Your thumbs have their own pulse because there are big arteries inside them. That's why you can't feel your pulse in the neck with your thumb. You spend 10% of the time when you're awake with your eyelids closed. It's all those times you're blinking. Humans are capable of using echolocation, like bats and dolphins. With some training, you can find your way in complete darkness, analyzing the surroundings by sounds bouncing off objects. Oh, need to practice that. On average, it takes 7 minutes to fall asleep. There are some techniques to speed up that process to 120 seconds, though. You can physically see your nose, but the brain chooses to ignore it. Otherwise, it would stand in the way of your vision. Plus, it would be out of focus. Around 12% of people can't dream in color. There used to be more of them before color TV had been invented. All your muscles relax at the same time right after you've fallen asleep. Your brain thinks you're about to fall and sends quick signals to all of your muscles to awaken them. That's why it sometimes feels like you're literally falling. You've inherited fingers that get wrinkly from water from your ancestors. It gave them the grip they needed to survive in rainy weather. Your toes get wrinkly too, to let you stand on a wet surface safely. Many centuries ago, people used their wisdom teeth to chew through tough plants and roots. As their brains grew bigger, leaving less space in the mouth, these teeth became the extra ones. Now you can just cook your food and survive without them. Every day, an average woman unknowingly puts on about 515 chemicals on her body. They come from deodorants, shampoos, conditioners, moisturizers, and other beauty products. Most of them are harmless. You can't sneeze when you're sleeping because the nerve cells in your nose that activate sneezing are sleeping too. You can't sense smells in your sleep either. An average person has around 250 hairs per eyebrow, but some lucky fellows have a total of 1,100 hairs. They keep raindrops and sweat from getting in your eyes. Your skeleton completely renews itself every 10 years or so. The process never stops, but slows down with age. That's why your bones become thinner. An adult takes 12 to 16 breaths per minute. It adds up to a total of 17,000 to 23,000 breaths daily. If you stretch your entire network of blood vessels, its length would be enough to circle the Earth twice. That's over 60,000 miles, and you would be very sore if you did that. Women have more taste buds on their tongues than men. 35% of women are super tasters and have more than 30 taste buds in the space the size of a hole punch on their tongue. That's an interesting comparison. Sugar is sweeter and sodium is saltier to them. Blondes have the biggest number of hair follicles, around 146,000. Second place belongs to black-haired people. They have 110,000 follicles. If you have brown hair, there are around 100,000 hair follicles on your head. With an average of 86,000 follicles, redheads have the least dense hair. As you age, your feet might get bigger, but it doesn't mean your bones are growing. It happens due to weight gain and loose ligaments that make your feet flatter and wider over time. When you have that stomach in your throat feeling on a roller coaster, some of your organs are really shifting. It happens to your intestines and stomach, which are connected rather loosely and is harmless. It says here. Your teeth have enamel on the outside that makes them just as strong as a shark's. They aren't as sharp, though. Your hair can stretch about 30% of its length when wet. Your brain constantly needs oxygen and uses 20% of its reserves in your body. When you're trying to solve some problem, it can even use more oxygen, up to 50%. If you decided to smooth out all the wrinkles in your brain, it'd be a flat surface the size of a pillowcase. As you're listening to music, your heartbeat syncs with the rhythm. Faster tempos make it beat faster. Your diaphragm sometimes twitches, which makes you suddenly intake more air. Your throat closes and interrupts the intake. This is how hiccups work. Unlike what every space movie tells you, you won't instantly freeze if you got into open space without a suit. Space vacuum is a great insulator, so you would retain your heat for some time. Just don't make a habit of it. The atoms in your body are billions of years old. Nearly all of them were made in a star, and many have come through several supernovas. It makes you a big chunk of stardust. Scientists still don't know why humans yawn. The most popular theory says it happens to cool down your brain and regulate body temperature. Humans are the only animals that have chins. Even chimpanzees and gorillas have lower jaws that slope down and back from their front teeth. When you're breathing, most of the air is going through one of the nostrils. After a few hours, it starts going through the other, and they keep switching like that. Your nose can pick up about 1 trillion smells with 400 different types of scent receptors. The sound you hear while cracking knuckles are gas bubbles bursting in your joints. Ooh, more fun body sounds. You burn calories when you're just breathing, watching TV, and even sleeping. By the time you turn 60, you will have lost almost half of your taste buds. That's why most elderly people don't notice the unusual or bitter taste. It only takes you 0.05 seconds to recognize a sound. That's 10 times faster than blinking. It's virtually impossible to destroy a human hair. Water, cold, and corrosion can do nothing to it. The only way to go is to set it on fire. Nah, don't do that. Around 1% of people are missing a special lens in the eye and can see ultraviolet. Famous Impressionist painter Claude Monet belonged to that 1%. When you sleep in a new place, half of your brain stays awake. Thanks to that, you'll be able to quickly get up if you have to protect yourself from something or someone. The way your sneeze sounds depends on your nose size. The larger the nose, the bigger the sneeze, because more air can go in and out. All the strangers from your dreams are real people you've met at some point in real life. You just didn't remember them. Unlike other cells, neurons can't replace themselves. If you typed 60 words per minute for 8 hours a day, it would take you 50 years to type the human genome. That sounds like a big waste of time. There's a name for the dip between your upper lip and nose. It's philtrum. Some people can navigate using the magnetic field of the planet, just like birds. Me? Nah, I can barely use my GPS.
There are sharks that glow in the dark. For example, swell sharks. They live in the dark ocean depths, almost 1,700 feet under the surface. No one knows why exactly, but they emit a fluorescent glow only other swell sharks can see. Scientists detected the glow because they used filters that blocked out yellow light. They think that could be the way for these big fish to communicate with their buddies. This glow helps sharks fight infections on a microbial level. Cowbirds have secret passwords they use to recognize each other. They're a specific type of parasite bird since they lay their eggs in other bird species' nests. The young cowbirds have an inner mechanism where they recognize their species singing, like some sort of secret password only they know. That's how they manage to find others of their kind. A grizzly bear has an incredibly strong bite. It may look cute, but if you're close to this big guy, you better stay out of reach of its sharp claws and especially its mouth. Its bite force is more than 8 million pascals, which means it can crush a bowling ball. Some animals have skin-deep stripes, and others have more superficial ones. Tigers are in the first group. Not only is their fur striped, but their skin is as well. It's the same with some other furry big cats, like snow leopards. Giraffes and zebras are in the second group, since they have patterns only on their coats. Speaking of zebras, do you think they're black with white stripes or white with black stripes? At first, it really looks like the second option is correct. Their black stripes mostly end towards the inside of their legs and on their bellies, and the rest of it is white. But that's not true. Surprisingly, they're black with white stripes. All of their fur, both white and black, grows from follicles that have something called melanocyte cells. All animals have these cells. They produce a pigment called melanin, and it gives color to their hair and skin. When it comes to zebras, chemical messengers tell which melanocytes send pigment to which area of fur. That's why zebras have a black and white pattern. But white is not actually its own pigment. It's an absence of melanin. So, black is their default color. Koalas have fingerprints that are so close to ours that they could even taint crime scenes. It doesn't seem like they have a lot in common with humans, but take a closer look at their hands. They have distinctive loops and arches. So if any koalas want to do something illegal, it would be a good idea for them to wear gloves. Ghost crabs growl when they're around creatures they don't like or find threatening. They do it using teeth in their stomachs. First, they'll let you know they'll defend themselves if you try anything by showing you their claws. If that doesn't work, they'll go for fearsome growling noises like dogs. But the noise is coming from rubbing their 3 elongated hard teeth inside their stomach. Ghost crabs produce the same noise when they're grinding up food. Speaking of teeth, did you know narwhal tusks are actually some sort of an inside-out tooth? Unlike the majority of other whales, narwhals are the ones that come with a large tusk, or tooth that grows from the inside of their jaw. It has up to 10 million nerve endings, and they're unprotected, which means its tusk is very sensitive to any type of contact. It's almost like a piece of skin, because tusks usually don't have many nerve endings. Up to 95% of humans are right-handed, and it's the same with bottlenose dolphins. There are even more right-handed ones among them than among humans. During one study, scientists found that bottlenose dolphins turn to their left side over 99% of the time, which means they're right-handed. They place their right side and right eye closer to the ocean floor as they go for prey, such as squids, shrimps, or smaller fish. More cool facts from the ocean. Did you know humpback whales use bubbles when they go after their prey? You might think they don't need any special method considering how large they are. But when they're lurking for prey in the open waters, these whales team up and use something called a bubble net technique. While swimming in an upward spiral, they blow bubbles underwater. These bubbles make it difficult for fish to escape. The oldest evidence we have of domesticated cats dates up to 12,000 years ago. Researchers discovered this almost 20 years ago when they were digging through an ancient village in Cyprus. They found cat bones right next to human ones, which suggested they were close even when their lives came to an end. Humans were hunters, so they domesticated dogs first, somewhere up to 29,000 years ago. Dogs helped them catch other animals, but they didn't think they needed cats until they started to settle down and store surplus crops. Mice became frequent guests in grain stores, so cats came in handy in those times. Puffins are quite innovative when they want to scratch their bodies. They can surely be proud of their stunning beaks, but they obviously think it's not enough for scratching. Researchers noticed they tend to spontaneously take a small wooden stick to scratch an itchy spot. There's a special type of ant that only lives in a small part of Manhattan. The Broadway medians at the 63rd and 76th Street is the area these crawling critters decided was the best spot for them. The Manhattan ant looks like it's from Europe, but no European species can actually match it. Hey Potterheads, can you believe there's a thing like chocolate frog? Well, not quite, but it looks like it. New Guinea and Australia weren't always separated. They spent millions of years together until about 12,000 years ago, rising sea levels divided them. Since they were together for so long, some animals and plants still inhabit both areas, including green tree frogs. These frogs have spread really far and wide, and some of them, who live in hot, swampy regions surrounded by plenty of crocodiles, actually look like they're made of chocolate. We all know flamingos for their specific color, but they're not actually pink. They're born gray, and that's how they would stay if it weren't for their diet of blue-green algae and shrimp. These foods have a specific natural dye, which is why flamingo feathers turn pink over time. These little Tasmanian devils grow up and leave their moms. They socialize together, forming bonds that last for the rest of their lives. Not only them, cows also have stronger social ties than we think. They like to socialize, and they make long-lasting friendships. One research even discovered their heart rates significantly increase as a sign of stress when they're separated from their BFFs. Imagine you could simply freeze yourself solid during the cold winter days instead of listening to your teeth chatter and trying to tighten your jacket. That's what frogs can do. Aquatic frogs mostly hibernate underwater and spend most of the winter at the bottom of a pond, lake, or some other body of water. Toads and frogs are generally cold-blooded, which means the temperature of their body takes on the temperature of their surroundings. So, frogs can freeze during the winter because of a high concentration of sugar or glucose in their vital organs. Once they unfreeze, they continue as if nothing happened. Octopuses have 3 hearts and blue blood. They can move at speeds of 25 miles per hour, and they spray ink that not only blurs the predator's visual field, but actually harms them. Also, they have 9 brains, the central one and 8 smaller brains located in their arms. That's why their arms can open a shellfish while the central brain is busy doing something else. An octopus even tastes with its arms. They have cells in their suckers that enable the arms to touch and taste in a way that they detect chemicals marine creatures produce. That way, an octopus can distinguish prey from rocks.
It's breakfast, and you crack open a hard-boiled egg. You find that it's green. Looks disgusting. Well, it looks like you cooked it for too long. This happened because of the thin sulfur layer in the whites and iron in the yolk. Though the mixture of these chemicals is black, it's such a thin layer mixed into the yellow yolk that it turns green. But don't fear, these strange green eggs, they're completely safe to eat. While sitting for a photo, it would be weird to say anything other than cheese to get that perfect smile. But in the 19th century, it was different. Photographers would ask their subjects to say prune instead. The reason was to obtain that thin, duck-like expression. It was considered a prim and proper way to present a photograph. Strawberries aren't even considered a berry and are more of a false fruit, further identified as multiple fruit. What we believe is that the tiny little brown or white things are seeds, but they're actually individual fruits attached to its flesh. But how did this mistake start in the first place? Well, the confusion began hundreds of years ago when it was first named. However, this was a long time before botanists were even around to help clarify this mistake. Sci-fi films are often inspired by real-life space exploration, but there's one thing that NASA implemented after watching a sci-fi movie. A 1929 flick, Woman in the Moon, introduced a countdown that built up anticipation. NASA found this helpful and started using it in 1969. Not only is it an exciting moment, but it does also have a practical use. It helps the massive team behind each launch ensure they're synchronized perfectly down to the last second. This one might change your appetite the next time you see a juicy apple. Usually picked around August to November, the shiny supermarket apples are covered in hot wax, then hot air dried and sent into cold storage. Before they arrive at the supermarket looking fresh, they've been in storage for anywhere between 6 to 12 months. I bet you can't do this. Try and hum while closing your nose. No noise came out, right? Without an exit for air, it's physically impossible to make any noise. The world's largest national park in Greenland covers a staggering 375,000 square miles. That's twice the size of California. But although it's huge, there are only up to 40 permanent residents in this massive area, making it one of the most isolated places on Earth. Issues with bad breath? Gum is the typical choice, but other things are just as effective. Cucumber is a great natural solution and a more efficient one. Working similarly to gum, it helps stimulate saliva production, but what makes it different from other odor defeaters is its water content. Washing away any unwanted pieces of food still remaining also helps to avoid a dry mouth, which causes odors. You would think that Z would be the last letter put into the alphabet, but it was actually J. Long ago in 1524, an Italian grammarian wanted to identify a way to separate I and J. Together, they were a vowel, and J was then used as a consonant that sounded like Y. It wasn't until 1633 when an English grammar book explained the proper use of J, and it was entered into the alphabet in the way we use it today. The first vacuum cleaner was invented in 1901, the size of a Winnebago, and it took 4 people to operate it. A petrol engine used to supply power also required a horse to move it around. I would suppose that it was mainly used for cleaning up after the horse in the end. It wasn't long after that they found easier ways to clean the house, and in 1910 the first handheld vacuum was invented. If you've been told that you sweat like a pig, there is no need to be offended. It's actually more of a compliment, as pigs don't sweat. All swine are born without sweat glands, and the only way to cool off is to find a nice puddle, or more famously, some mud. Umbrellas were invented around 4,000 years ago and were only socially acceptable for women to use them. Their original purpose was to keep the sun out of your eyes and as a fashion accessory. It wasn't until the mid-18th century that men were allowed to use them, and the modern, water-resistant version we use today was made. And most importantly, the very first dog umbrella was invented in 1965. Dentists can be very strict on what sweets you eat, so you would be amazed to learn that cotton candy was invented by a dentist. John C. Wharton, a dentist and confectioner, wanted to give his clients a treat every visit. Maybe he gave them this treat to ensure they came back more often. If we could theoretically build a highway to outer space and could adjust the effects of gravity, it would only take you an hour to drive to space if you drove at 60 miles per hour. Let's make this happen, Elon Musk. How heavy could a cloud be? It looks like it couldn't weigh too much as it floats easily up in the sky. But a cloud could weigh anywhere up to 1 million pounds. That massive cloud is able to float above you because the air's lighter up there and less dense than dry air below. You can see the same effect when observing oil floating on water. You think you yawn because you were bored or tired? Well, it's a myth. You yawn more often later in the day, but it's just your body helping you remain alert. Through inhaling cool air and stretching the muscles, it cools the flow to the brain. Researchers identified brain sizes in different species of animals based on their yawns. The larger the brain, the longer the yawn. So how long do you yawn? Playing video games regularly increases gray matter in the brain for all you gamers out there, which helps to boost brain connectivity through muscle control, memories, perception, and spatial navigation. An experiment at a New York medical center found that surgeons who played 3 hours of video games made 37% fewer mistakes and performed 27% faster than other non-gaming doctors. Have you ever wanted to be just a little bit taller? Well, get your space boots on. The human body can grow up to 3% taller when in space. While living on Earth, our spines are compressed by gravity. But in zero gravity, the decompression lets the spinal discs expand, allowing the spine to lengthen. Cows don't have full REM sleep while standing, but they can have a light nap. This is an evolutionary trait that helped their ancestors avoid predators. They stand idle during a power nap if they need to make a quick getaway. They do have full REM sleep, only by lying down. They only need 4 hours of sleep to fully energize for the next day. Women have more taste buds than men, and 35% of women are considered super tasters, and only 15% of men are. Not surprisingly, more women prefer pineapple on their pizza. Now, don't be triggered if you disagree. While sleeping, you're incapable of sneezing. This might seem impossible, especially when you have a cold. But while your body is resting, the nerves that help you sneeze are as well. While you sleep, the brain ignores any irritating sensations or tickling that would typically create the sneeze. Our calendar year once used to end in February. This is because it was the last month to be added to the calendar. A calendar year once only lasted 304 days, so there was plenty of room for more months. It was changed in the year 46 BCE to the calendar we know today by Julius Caesar. They previously followed the lunar calendar. Julius Caesar saw issues with this as it didn't match the seasons. He hired an astronomer who created a calendar based on the solar year.
There are things about your body you know for sure, or don't you? Can you guess what exactly is a myth or fact? 1 point is for each correct answer. Let me know your score. Brown eggs are more nutritious than white eggs. Myth or fact? Myth. There is no study saying brown eggs are healthier than white eggs. The only difference is the color of the eggshell. The color of the eggshell doesn't affect its nutrition or quality. That is related to the type of chicken. Chickens with white earlobes tend to have white eggs. Have you heard that a large amount of the dust in your home is actually decanted skin? Not cool, I know. Do you think this is a myth or a fact? This is a myth. You're not just mopping your skin flakes from the floor. Many other components make the house dust. Fibers, hair, building materials, mold, pollen, insect body parts, and ash are some of them, according to the study made in Canadian houses. This makes sense because a house nearby a busy highway or in a renovation area has more dust than a house in the middle of a forest. Skin is our largest organ. Is this a fact or myth? It's a fact. You might think for a second that the intestine can be quite large when you unfold it, but nope. Skin wins the contest. An adult carries around 8 pounds and 22 square feet of skin. Can't think of us without a skin. It's not just there to cover our bodies, it has an essential role in protecting us too. You can't breathe and swallow at the same time. Myth or fact? It's a fact. Maybe you already knew the correct answer, but you tried it anyway after reading this, so see it for yourself. So in your throat, there are 2 passageways important for your survival. I'm putting aside the fancy medical names, and I'll refer to those 2 as airway and food pipe. They prevent breathing and swallowing simultaneously. Otherwise, food would enter the airway and cause severe complications. This doesn't always go as planned. That's why sometimes you end up coughing and preventing the piece of food from reaching the lungs. As well as having unique fingerprints, humans also have unique tongue prints. Is this a myth or fact? Fact! The human tongue is magnificent enough in its features that make us taste the food. It's also unique in its texture. People use biometric systems like fingerprints, voice scans, and iris scans for authentication. They are important to the identification and verification phases. Tongue print is unique, so it's very hard to copy it. It can be used as a biometric system tool too. What if people started using this system in their daily lives for safety reasons? Imagine locking a safe or your phone with a tongue print. An adult spends 3 hours in the bathroom every week. Do you think this is a fact or a myth? It's a fact. A poll by scientists reveals that an average adult spends 3 hours and 9 minutes on the toilet every week. This is more than the time they spent exercising. Take your sweet time. No need to rush. You swallow 8 spiders a year while sleeping. Myth or fact? Don't believe it. Lucky for us, and for the spiders of course, this is not true. Fear no more and have a good night's sleep. Most spiders don't deliberately come near humans. Plus, vibrations coming from a sleeping person might be uncanny for them. Or maybe the spider just lives in the habitat. It thinks that you are flatmates sharing a room. As long as there is actual evidence, I call this a myth. Your thigh bone can resist thousands of pounds of force. Do you think this is a myth or a fact? Yes, this is a fact. People generally refer to it as tight bone, but its actual name is femur bone. This bone is located on the upper part of your leg. Experts say that this bone is hard to break. It's one of the two strongest bones in our anatomy. The first one is the temporal bone of the skull. If you wondered about the first one. Anyway, a tight bone can support 30 times more of your body weight. Maybe it's because the femur bone is the longest and largest bone in the human body. Do you believe that shaving your hair makes it grow back thicker? Fact or myth? Watch how I debunk that myth. Experts say shaving doesn't affect the thickness of the hair. The hair's head didn't remove, so the root is still there. You only shave the upper part. After a shave, the hair grows bluntly because it's been cut. That's why you may feel it's getting thicker. It's safe to eat food that's been on the floor for 5 seconds or less. Is this a fact or a myth? Sorry for blocking the best way you justify eating something that fell on the floor. There's no such thing as the 5-second rule. Researchers found that a substantial amount of bacteria transferred to the food within 5 seconds. The moisture of the food directly affects contamination. Imagine you drop a slice of watermelon and chips on the floor. I don't know why you're eating both together or how you end up dropping them both. But let's continue with this example anyway. The watermelon will have more contamination than chips. Because watermelon has more moisture in it, the surface of the watermelon is more open to transferring bacteria. Blondes and redheads may soon disappear. Myth or fact? An easy one, right? This is a myth. Red or blonde-colored hairs are connected to recessive genes. They can be carried from one generation to another without creating the hair color of the carrier. If both parents have the correct recessive genes, the chances are high that the next generation will have blonde or red hair. These genes are rare, but populations still have those genes carried out, so they won't get lost forever. For that to happen, literally everyone on the planet who carries that gene must disappear. So, the chances are low. Drinking coffee dehydrates you. Is it a fact or myth? Myth! You can enjoy your morning coffee. Okay, you may visit the bathroom more frequently after drinking coffee, but it doesn't mean you're losing more water. There are numerous studies made about the effects of caffeine. Some of these studies reveal that drinking a reasonable amount of coffee a day doesn't increase the risk of dehydration. Eating yogurt helps your digestion. Do you think this is a fact or just another myth? A fact, but with the right choice of yogurt. Yogurt is food containing probiotics. They are the good bacteria that make everything flow smoothly in your gut. Eating yogurt alone may not be enough to have a healthy digestive system. It supports the digestive system positively. Keep in mind, though, not all yogurts are equal. Some of them have sugar in them, or they come with toppings like candy or cookies. Go for the classic ones. Your hair will grow faster if you have it cut more often. Fact or myth? We were always told not to cry too much over the hair we lost because it would grow back faster. Unfortunately, the hair growth rate doesn't depend on how often you get a haircut. The average hair growth rate is 0.01 inches per day. Plus, many factors affect it: age, hormones, and even the time of year. Knowing this new fact may make some people postpone their hairdresser appointments. Pockets are usually on the left side of shirts because most people are right-handed. Is this a myth or a fact? This is actually true. Many products favor the righties. Left-handed people will relate to this on so many levels. Let's say public transport. Have you ever noticed that the scanner at stations is typically on the right side? Household equipment and devices are one more example. Scissors, tweezers, bottle openers, and many other kitchen and household appliances are designed with right-handed people in mind. The same goes for shirt pockets. While some people use both hands equally and others change their hand preference between tasks, overall, most people are right-handed. A study has revealed that 75% to 90% of the world's population are right-handed and 10% are left-handed. This means it's more convenient for most people to have pockets on the left side than on the right side of their garments. Try it out for yourself. Your elbow kind of folds when you try to reach into the pocket on the right side. Whereas on the left side, your elbow makes an arc shape, which makes it easier to put things inside the pocket and take them out. Eating more protein leads to having bigger muscles. What do you think about this, bodybuilders? Myth or fact? This is a myth. It's true that eating protein is essential for building bigger muscles. Proteins are building blocks of your body, and yet, eating more than you need is unnecessary. Everyone should drink 8 glasses of water a day. Do you think this is a myth or a fact? This is a myth, so don't blame yourself for drinking less water than recommended. 8 glasses are not a magic number. Hydration needs differ from one person to another. How much water you should drink every day depends on your activity and exercise level. The temperature of the place where you live affects this number too. If you live in a hot area, you sweat more and need to drink more water. Soup, coffee, tea, fruits, and other things you eat daily also contain water. Carrots are high in sugar, so you should avoid eating them. If this is true, we should warn bunnies. Any guesses? Fact or myth? It's a myth. Carrots are about 85% water. 1 pound of cooked carrots only contains 3 teaspoons of sugar. Compared to the amount of sugar in desserts, this is nothing. Plus, carrots are high in phytochemicals, and eating them can help lower blood sugar. Medieval people believed in flat Earth. Is this a myth or a fact? Obviously, flat Earth is a myth. But so is the history built around this myth. You can't say that at those times. The whole world was skeptical about Earth's spherical shape. Even everyday visible things proved that. For example, medieval people could see that the twilight glow during sunrise and sunset formed an arc over the horizon. Vikings wore horned helmets. Is this a myth or fact? The well-known image of a Viking warrior is almost always completed with a horned helmet, but in reality, there were no horns. There's no evidence that Viking helmets were horned. Detox juices cleanse your body. Is this a fact or myth? It's a myth. Detoxification doesn't work that way. Your internal organs are responsible for the process of cleansing: the spleen, liver, kidneys, especially the liver. Your body is always in a natural state of cleansing itself. A person doesn't need to drink juices for detoxification. Nuts are junk food. Any thoughts? Myth or fact? You're right, this is a myth. Nuts are full of healthy fats. They're good for your heart and other organs. The average American throws away about 82 pounds of textile waste per year. Is this a fact or myth? Fact! Imagine all that waste. When someone throws their clothes away, they don't disappear into thin air. These items most likely reach landfills as their final destination. Donating clothes and selling them in second-hand stores are a much better option. Now, you've probably heard about life-saving laundry tricks that are said to make your clothes super clean and as good as they were on day 1. What if those laundry tips are actually myths? I got 3 of them lined up for you. Shirts should be buttoned when you put them in the laundry. Is it true or not? This is a myth. You'd better keep zippers closed to keep their teeth from catching the fabric of other clothes. But fastening the buttons of a shirt can expand the button net and the buttonhole. In the long term, buttons will start slipping out of place. Washing clothes in hot water is the most effective way to clean them. Is this a myth or fact? That's another laundry myth. You want to rid your clothes of germs, yet hot water alone won't be enough for this. Nowadays, many detergents can clean clothes in cold or warm water. You should remove stains from the face of the fabric. Is it true? Most people apply water and soap to the stain, starting from the front side of the fabric, but that's not the best option. A much better way is to start from the back. The stain can go deeper if you treat it from the front. Try to make the stain move up to the surface rather than push it inside. Listening to music is an effective tool for learning languages. Is it a myth or fact? It's a fact. Scientists say listening to a song and humming along can help you learn a language. Most people struggle to learn grammar, yet in our daily lives, we don't always follow grammar rules. Songs can help you pick up informal expressions. Scientists have also concluded that music can help you remember new words and add them to your vocabulary. Let me give you an example. It's from your first year at school. Yep, the alphabet song. Are you a morning person or a night owl? Either way, you might want to know these facts and myths about sleep. The longest someone went without sleep was 11 days. Do you think this is possible, or is it an urban legend? This is a fact. Randy Gardner set the record for the longest amount of time a person went without sleep. It was an experiment carried out by Stanford sleep researcher Dr. William C. Dement. The doctor recorded and monitored Randy Gardner's sleep activity. Gardner managed to stay awake for 11 days and 25 minutes. Your body eventually gets used to getting less sleep. Myth or fact? It's a myth. There are many studies proving that your body and especially your brain can't get used to sleeping less. Have you noticed that after a few nights of insufficient sleep, you begin to feel groggier during the day? That's your body trying to adjust to not getting enough rest. Long-term sleep deprivation affects your daytime performance, focus, and decision-making. Many grown-ups need 5 or fewer hours of sleep. Can it be true? Well, this one's easy. It's a myth. Experts from the National Sleep Foundation recommend that the average adult sleeps 7 to 9 hours per night. Some people have a genetic mutation thanks to which they wake up refreshed after a short night's sleep, but such people are an exception. 1 in 4 million. The ability to fall asleep in any place and at any time means you're a good sleeper. What do you think? Myth or fact? It's a myth. A good sleeper gets a proper amount of sleep and has a regular sleep schedule. Cats spend 2/3 of their life asleep. Do you believe that? This will probably come as no surprise. It's a fact. How many of the facts and myths did you guess correctly?
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.